Oh man. All right. Welcome. Oh wait, here we go. Oh, and I don't have any of your. Oh my god, I think it messed up the
Oh,
cameras. Let's
oh
see. Oh, I have to fix
my.
this. Yeah, I have to fix it. Like OBS completely crashed on me. So you know
Oh
what?
my.
We're gonna fix it
That's all
live
right.
here, guys. We're gonna fix it live. We don't have to restart anything. So before we start, all right, you know what? I'm gonna do it while I'm fixing this. Welcome everybody to MogTalk episode 220. Today is February 20th, 2021. My name is Frosty, of course. If you are unfamiliar with MogTalk, it is a show based around the Final Fantasy XIV rating community where we just... not rating community, holy shit. Everything from rating to Chocobo Racing. We do everything. We're doing lore today. And today is like the worst fucking... I don't know what it is. I just have everything all messed up. It was perfect. You know what? I'm going to tell you a quick
It's
story.
fine.
I'm going to tell you guys a quick story. Before the show started, you might notice the layout's different on the show. It's because I lost all of my assets, or lost the layout that I had for the show. Like it just, Adobe reinstalled itself, and I lost it. So now we have a new layout today. So enjoy that. All right. Welcome, everybody. I have everything fixed. It took me 2 seconds. And before we get started, I want to introduce my guests as we are talking about lore. We brought on two of the best people to talk about it. First, I'm going to have Ethys introduce himself. Would you mind?
Hi everyone. It's me. I'm Ethys. That's my introduction. We got another guy here who also knows a lot about lore. What's up? Who's this?
This is Anonymoose, another guy who goes on fewer shows than Ethys, and is probably not as well known, but...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, maybe not as well known, but definitely much more of like...
Depends on where you go.
Yeah. I mean, if you were looking... If they held up two pictures of people, and they're like, which one of these two are in a boy band? It's you.
Well,
It's you, man.
I mean, depends on the decade, doesn't it?
Oh, you're right. No, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Anyways, we have recovered.
Is Alice in Chains a boy band?
It's mostly boys.
Yeah. It's mostly boys, right? Foo Fighters
Is that all it takes to count?
Yeah, I would think so in the real
a
definition.
band with boys in it by definition. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
I see Papa Roach doesn't have any girls. Good boy band.
It is. Oh, all right. Before we trigger too many people out there today, I do want to let everybody know it is going to be about lore. We have a lot of stuff to discuss. We are focusing a good bit. I'm going to be asking questions about the moon because this is something Ethys has been waiting for. He's been like sitting there, like he's like every day. He's like, I'm ready to talk about the moon. You know, I know it's coming. I know it's going to happen, and this is the conversation I want to happen. He's always had a positive outlook towards it. Right, Ethys?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. I've been so excited to go to the moon. Do I need to give some context for this?
Please,
Does everyone like
please,
have the
go ahead.
context for this?
I don't think everybody
Okay.
has context. Go ahead.
So, Heaven's Ward comes out, right? End of 2.0, we see Elidibus standing on the moon. And then next patch, we see the Void Ark sort of, drifting around in the sea of clouds. And I've got Haps, chewing on my ass saying, we'll go to the moon. It's the lunar whale. We're going to the moon. Next patch, here we go. Raid's going to be on the moon. I was like, come on, dude. Like, we haven't even seen half of Eorzea yet. Why are we going to be going to the moon? And it just kind of stuck, like everything. And, eventually, we are.
It was going to happen eventually, right? There's one of these times where we're going to like meme about it and it was going to be true.
Yeah, I mean, we still haven't seen, West Shroud. We still haven't seen any Duskwhite settlements, but I guess we're going to the moon. Great.
So how much of the world, I mean, we don't know really how much of the world we've seen, right?
Sure we do.
Do we? They can't just like extend the map and just say, hey, look, it's actually bigger than what we thought it was.
Well, we've got that.
They're gonna do that. What we've seen with the three great continents is probably like 50% of it minus a lot of ocean. It's a very rough Earth analog. They've kind of broken up what we see on the Earth and moved it around a bit, but it is kind of close if you look at it. There's an analog to each thing. So like on the other side of the planet, you've got the equivalent of North and South America, whatever they make those look like. That's going to be the new world. But like a lot of it's probably ocean between there, and then they can throw in whatever we want. But yeah, probably roughly about 50%.
Okay.
So I actually just posted in Discord chat for you there, Frosty. This is not going to like necessarily be like literal, but this is kind of extrapolated from the shots that we've actually seen from the moon of the the surface of Heinlein. And you can see sort of top right section there is the 3 great continents. And then stretching down the left there is the New Worlds. We imagine. Okay. And then sort of to the south there is Mericidia. So yeah, we've seen like roughly 50%.
Okay.
Across the
I
three
still
great
think
continents.
they could BS it and make it more if they really wanted to. I don't know why they would, to be honest with you, because there is space, right? You have lots of stuff to go to, and now we apparently can go to space. Why can't we? We can go to different dimensions. We kind of have like as much of room as we want to make stuff, right? Okay.
I had a little bit of a benefit in this case because when we went to E3 with Gamer Escape in 2015, Fusion tried to get Yoshida to talk about what the new mechanic was going to be after Heavensward because they said they were thinking of you could go up or you could go down, and they decided on up for flight. So Fusion tried to like goad him into saying, yeah, we're going to go down, we're going to go swimming, we're going to go like in water content in 4.0, but they hadn't announced it yet. So Yoshida jokes, maybe we'll go even further up. Maybe we'll go like into space. I think we'll go to the moon. And like as soon as we left that interview, we all sat together like, did we think he was fully joking? Like fully joking? And then he made that same joke probably 6 times, and we were like, okay, you know what? This is probably on his long-term to-do list, so I've just been waiting for it. Like it's coming.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys have seen the clip where he's talking at FanFest, and he's like, where do you guys think we're going to go? Oh, the moon? Probably 7.0, right? And then it's 6.0, but...
Yeah, fast-tracked it. Seriously, though, like, I was expecting we would be getting there eventually, and we'll talk about that, I think, pretty soon, looking at the show notes.
Oh, yeah, so the show notes, that we go by.
That we totally go by, that we follow very, very strict, sophisticated show notes here. Yeah. I wasn't expecting it to be a zone. I was expecting it to be like an instance, like we'd have a battle on the moon. But having a zone is surprising and makes me.
Do you think it's just going to be a zone?
That's a loaded question. What do you mean by just a zone? Like,
so is it like, hey, you have the Crystarium and you have Lakeland, and that's it. That's the moon. That's the rough size of the moon that we're going to be getting.
Oh, I see what you mean. Rather than being like several zones.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it's going to be just a zone. If there are several zones on the moon, then I'm going to be salty.
The whole expansion is moon. This is so far to think.
I would be so mad. I'd be so mad. It's not. It's definitely not.
Okay. I expect like one very large hub zone and then a lot of instanced content off of it. Because they need somewhere to put that beast tribe, right? The totally not Hummingways.
Well, okay. So here's and we're not like too deep into lore right now. We're kind of just talking ideas from things that from your perspective as being lore masters, right? That's kind of what I'm trying to do right now. So we have the moon, we have this other very colorful area, and those sort of things have been the major highlight. And Garlemald. We have these 3 areas. So are we going to be like a couple areas here, a couple areas here, a couple areas here, just kind of jumping around these 3 different zones to try to wrap up this story?
Yeah, I mean, Yoshida said in a recent interview, like a couple of days ago, that it was going to be a far more sort of like, what's the term he used? Basically, a far more like expansive adventure in terms of like jumping back and forth all over the place, rather than just kind of like walking in a straight line, which is like what most expansions have been basically, is us getting from like here to there and like going through several zones to sort of do that and then kind of like backtracking through them over the course of the expansion. Whereas this is going to be, yeah, like, you know, 1 minute we're going to be over in Thavner, the next we're going to be, you know, over somewhere else. And then, I mean, we can only speculate like what order these things are going to happen. But yeah, he has said that there's going to be a lot of movement involved.
So, from my perspective, and this is what I'm thinking, is that half of the game is going to be the moon. Half the expansion is the moon. How do you make it the highlight of your expansion and not make it the majority of your content?
How do you have an entire trailer whose premise is the light is no good here, you have to embrace darkness, and then you never embrace darkness?
Okay.
Sometimes trailers are just cool, Frosty.
All right. No, you're cool. You're right.
No. They could do pretty much anything right now. Like to a degree, we could even see just like the idea that there's a straight line from Thavner to Garlemald, kind of meandering through other kind of stuff, and you know, you get there in classic action movie fashion, just as his helicopter to the moon lifts off. Totally pointless journey. Like,
yeah,
they could do anything.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's get to some of these questions. I just want to start off with some general stuff here. Of course, a lot of people are curious about the things that we saw in the trailer, so a lot of focus is going to be on the trailer and the showcase here, because that's where a lot of new information came from. And you guys have been talking about this for weeks. I'm sure you have the very polished thoughts now, right? You left all the really crappy thoughts on the previous stuff that you did, and now you have all the really polished, great thoughts here.
I got plenty of crappy thoughts left. As many as you could need.
Okay. Well, let's. What was your initial reactions? Let's just go ahead and do that. You guys, hopefully it was like, wow, amazing, or was it just like, What'd you think about these trailers when you saw them? Like from a lore perspective.
Okay, from a lore perspective, the thing that was most like interesting to me was pacing, actually. Because coming from like 5.4, it was really hard to say when people are saying like, oh, what do you think is going to happen in 6.0? I'm like, I don't know. Well, I have to see what happens in 5.5, because we've got these towers that have showed up. We've got Fan Daniel talking about the final days and the Telophoroi and like, you know, this plan that he has, but we have no idea like how quickly that is going to move. It's possible that we could have dealt with the towers entirely like before we get into 6.0. Fan Daniel could be dead before we get into 6.0. So seeing the trailer basically dealing with the stuff that we've got in front of us right now was really interesting, because I was like, okay, so not all that much is necessarily going to happen between like now and 6.0. But then Yoshida's saying, well, 6.0 is going to be like it. Like for the MSQ, we're going to resolve the grand story arc we've had over the last 10 years. And 6.1, we're going to start moving on to something else. So I was looking at the trailer and thinking like, okay, we're sort of like slowly building up to like the top of the roller coaster, you know? And 6.0 is going to be like this precipice, and it is going to be like, there's so much work that's going to have to be done just in that, like, you know, 30, 40 hours of MSQ. And that was the main thing that really like got the gears turning for me. I wasn't terribly surprised, like, despite all the memes and everything, I wasn't terribly surprised to see the moon, because like Zodiac, right?
Yeah.
You know, we were gonna have to deal with that nonsense, you know, one way or the other. I wasn't terribly surprised to see Thavner, because that was like pretty near, I think, the top of the list. So yeah, from like those beats, it wasn't like mind blowing for me, but I was really kind of interested and surprised by, again, the implications of the pacing of the story.
Did it feel good to be like,
you?
hey, I'm right? I know my shit. It was like confirmation of that a little bit, maybe.
No, because it's not really that. It was like, again, the trailer was showing stuff that we've already seen for the most part. and the kind of natural consequences of those things that we've already seen.
Mhm.
So not really. Like I've had that before with patches and with expansions where I've either been like, aha, I knew it, or I've been like, oh well, that's not what I was expecting at all. Whereas this was more like, yeah, okay.
Okay. Cool.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Moose, what was your initial reactions and thoughts?
I like purely initial reactions. I didn't actually go to lore immediately. I thought I tried to look at it like kind of like from a childlike wonder perspective, like, oh, this is so cool. This is what I want. Like, so the first thought was, of course, oh my God, the madman's finally taking us to the moon. He's joked about it for years. We're finally going. Then I laughed a little bit because I thought Thavnair was a good possibility in 3.0, and then I thought it was a good possibility in 4.0. And then I thought it was a good possibility in 5.0. So I was like, screw it, 6.0 Thavnair, and now we're finally going. So there was just kind of like some comedy there, but like no Blitzball content yet. Where's my Blitzball? So my first real like lore reaction to the trailer was that I don't think we've seen the coolest stuff of the trailer yet. I think there's a lot of stuff missing, especially because they went out of their way to show us the map and show us the clouds. I think we're gonna see something pretty big in the next trailer. So I'm waiting to see what that is. I want to see what direction we go. Are we like gonna pull the whole cover back on Ilzabard and there's lots of stuff there to see, or are they just gonna juke us and jump right to like Charlayan or something?
Yeah.
Yes.
They could.
Yes, they are.
You think they are? I mean, all of these things. So, thinking of this, by the way, they're wrapping up the story. He said, all this lore, all these thoughts, and everything else. They could just like explode all of these things that you've had theories on and ideas, and just throw it all out there at once, and then we just go on to this whole new fresh thing in 7.0. And so,
well, in 6.1, they're already going to be, moving on to the next story arc, at least with the MSQ. I think that Pandemonium is going to be used, and the 24 man is probably going to be used to kind of like tie up a lot of this stuff. In the same way that like Eden did for Shadowbringers, is like, okay, basically from 5.1, we're like, all right, trying to get back to the source and kind of like, get back on track with that. But we've still got, all this like extra side content to kind of like wrap up this sort of little narrative arc. So I think the 8-man, I think the 24-man is going to be doing that, is going to continue to sort of do that work. But yeah, 6.1, he said 6.1 is going to be starting a new story arc.
Did he say 6.1 exactly?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. I thought he was going to do like 6.3 or something, and I missed it.
That's why we were so surprised. And again, why I was talking about the pacing, right? Because he's been telling us that like we're moving towards it's like wrapping up. And we were thinking, all right, well, maybe, like 6.3 would make sense. Like they kind of shave it off there. And then slowly, 6.4, 6.5, 6.55 will slowly start like transitioning into the next thing. But it's like, it's really like, it's a little scary, honestly.
Yeah,
I don't know if
it feels
like,
almost.
for it.
I'm afraid to say it. The same kind of thoughts that I had with Game of Thrones, right?
Right.
But I mean, it's different people in charge. It's different people. Different. It's a scary situation with people we trust in charge, though. Just.
This is going to be a very hot take, and I'm probably going to get
excellent.
I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for this, but now that you mentioned Game of Thrones, I think Ishikawa is a better narrative designer than George R. R. Martin.
Well, to be honest with you, George R. R. Martin wasn't in charge of the final season of Game of Thrones. I don't think he was, at least. I don't know.
Yeah, he could have been if he'd written.
If he read a book, maybe if he
in the last 10 years.
Oh, jeez.
Anyway, lay it on me. YouTube comments. I'll take it. It's all right.
I want to mention.
Actually,
go ahead.
All right. I'm actually glad Ethys went first with a hot take, because I felt like I was about to have a hot take moment here. So thank you for taking some of the heat off of me there. What I would say about it is I actually think Well, first off, I should say that the reason I see Game of Thrones last season the way I do is because so much of George R. R. Martin's writing is the consequences of actions that have been taken previously. The plot serves the characters. Where here in the last season, you needed to get to an ending and they had no way to get there. So the plot or the characters had to do whatever the plot demanded. It was backwards. So I feel like we've already had that expansion in 14. That was our Stormblood, where they were taking all of the plot hooks that they wanted to use and tying them all together with whatever story it took to get there. So I think we've gotten that out of the way in 14.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about that anymore.
Well, like if we do, I'm sorry, but I've got my hopes up.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna have a quick tangent because you said something about YouTube comments. And it's something I've noticed recently, and I want Twitch chat here to notice too. There seems to be some kind of war between Twitch chat and YouTube comments, because YouTube comments they were saying, like, we talk shit about YouTube comments every once in a while, but like in Twitch chat, in the YouTube comments, there was stuff coming up. She's like, "Hey, show's great, just don't look at Twitch chat. Just don't look at it, and ignore that. Pay attention to the show." So. I just want Twitch chat out there to know that YouTube's talking some shit about you. And you can take that for whatever you want, but they were saying that Twitch chat sucked in the recent YouTube comments. So, anyways.
Man,
yeah,
goes both ways.
Yeah, it does. It does. Okay, so when we were going, and was there like any information in there that you saw, and you're like, okay, this completed this theory. This makes sense. I wasn't sure about this, but now you feel more confident after seeing that information from the trailer.
Yeah, I think so. Seeing the monsters that Alfino and Alize are fighting, they're Terminus beasts. Like, literally, they are the same models, the same skins as trash mobs in the Amarot dungeon in Emmett Selk's recreation of the final days. They are monsters that showed up as a result of the end of days. So when Van Daniel says that he's recreating the final days and that's what the towers seem to be servicing, we can kind of like, I wouldn't say take his word for it, but it does seem very much like that's what's going on, right?
You think Van Daniel's trying to be Emmett Selk in a way?
No,
not
at all.
Okay,
but okay. I do think that he is indeed facilitating
the final days. Yeah, I think that's kind of what we saw in that cutscene. Not the cutscene, but the main story quest. He was like, I just want to kill everything. I want to destroy everything. I want the final days. He wanted that to happen. And again, right?
Yeah. Now, see, I don't take. I mean, he didn't say that. Yeah. I don't take his word for that. I don't take his word for being a nihilist and just wanting to die and wanting everything to die. I don't think he's showed his hand yet in any way. But yeah, seeing those Terminus beasts in the trailer, I was like, all right, this is the direction that we're going, and this is consistent at least with that.
Okay. Yeah. Moose?
I think it's incredibly brave to trust the monsters that you see in a trailer.
You know what? Touche.
I do. I think that's brave, but if you can build like a good theory on it, like I encourage it. But like after, we had that big swarm of red Hraesvelgers, and I mean, like Shadowbringers was pretty close with the monsters, but like we never ran into like, Attack of the 50 Yalm Karibu. So like it comes and it goes in the accuracy department. It might just be the model that they had for that was something close to representing the final days, or it might be we're really seeing the final days. But so this is just like the lore take that I had in terms of what information I felt I gleaned from it was most important. But like this goes back to Ethys was saying with the pacing. This cemented for me what they want Zenos to be, what they're building Zenos to be. Because for all I knew, again, he was going to be dead by 5.5. Like, so this really cements that the war in Garlemald's going to go pretty bad. And there's a lot of interesting implications there because we know the big pot stirrer right there is Nerva right now. And that's Zenos' cousin, Titus's son, and he's funded by House Brutus. So you know that the Populares are not in good shape right now. We know that most of that's probably going to be out of the way by the time we get there. We got Howl's murder castle in the center of everything with Zenos on the throne. So we know that they're kind of building up their own Sephiroth in a way. So it just really cemented for me that that's what they've committed to. This is what's going to happen. There's a reason all of this has been in place in Stormblood, and it's going to be the focus. It's not a plot point on the way there. It's the focus.
Okay. And sorry, everybody, for the little bit of lag stuff going on there. I was checking. I can't see any reason why. It's probably just because American internet shit. But it seems to smooth out. Refresh if you need to, but I think we're good. Sorry, Moose. To follow that up with internet issues. But I mean, it is good. I don't know. I feel the big thing when I saw the trailer is when I saw Zenos again, I was pretty much like, I don't care. I like, he doesn't inspire any interest for me story-wise anymore. And I don't know if that, because I felt like he was done. Like when he cut his throat at the end, I was like, all right, that's pretty hardcore. He's done. I don't have to worry about him. It's a really crazy hardcore end. I stick to it. Then he just kind of came back later, and I don't know. It's hard for me to get attached to him.
How do you feel about Fun Daniel then?
I feel like he's kind of stupid. I thought I was done with him too, to be honest with you. I mean, this is me going from, and I'm sorry, everybody watching this for like the deep lore and the serious like understanding of characters and people who have good opinions on stuff like this. That's not me. I bring people on to put me in my place, or to discuss my thought from a casual perspective. But yeah, when I saw Fan Daniel, he, I don't know, like his storyline in Stormblood, I was like, I'm good with him being gone, but for some reason we want it to. He's a scion or whatever, right? He's taken over. I don't need to see him anymore.
Right.
I was done with his face. I didn't need to see his face.
Oh, I agree with that. Look, I don't think either of us are going to put you in your place. I think we probably both agree with you that so far they have both been like fairly two-dimensional characters, right?
Moose?
Yeah,
so far.
For some reason, now that I'm like here talking about it, I feel the need to play devil's advocate against myself. I have spent since Stormblood saying, why is Zenos still alive? Why is the best thing for the story that it's Zenos? We could have any other character with similar powers playing the similar wild card role, and why not? Well, why is it not better to have a fresh character with a cool design doing this stuff when his death was so perfect? Like, what does this bring to the story? And now that we're here, I'm sitting here thinking like, well, why not give him a chance? Let's see what happens. If they can make the Ascians interesting and well characterized in the ending, anybody can be fixed. There is no, like they can do this. They can pull this off. It's just will they? And I'm wondering how they're going to do it. But the thing that gets me is that like Zenos is most interesting when he is like actively being a wild card, wandering around doing stuff. And for a while, he's just been sitting in a chair talking to Fan Daniel, and that's not where Zenos is interesting. So I'm excited to see him get up again. That's one thing. And I'm with Ethys entirely on that. I don't think Van Daniel is telling the truth about his motivations at all. I think he's got a completely different plan. In terms of what it is, just based on what we've seen so far, I tend to stick to what precedent would tell us. I think he thinks he knows better what Zodiark wants than the originals did. That he wants to be Zodiark's. He's got a better idea. He knows what Zodiark's really after. He's going to be his new right-hand man. They're going to be BFFs. But that's also kind of what we'd expect. So maybe they wouldn't go in that direction at all. Maybe that's not the coolest thing to do.
Can I put my tinfoil hat on for a moment while we're doing this? Because I'd love to hear
Moose's hat. Let's go.
Oh no, we're going way further than that. Way further than ancient elegance. Because I'd like to get Moose's take on this. I'm also working on precedent, but I'm working on a completely different precedent. I'm working on like a franchise-wide precedent, if you will. Zodiac was designed to rewrite the laws of the star, the laws of existence, whatever the heck that means, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Asians used that to reestablish their kind of MO, basically, to make things the way they were, to make sure that they stayed on top and everything was good and everything was the way it was. But I don't think they necessarily had to do that. Like, if Zodiac had powers like that, great, that he could rewrite the laws of existence, surely you could do something a lot more dramatic than what they actually did, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
I can't help but wonder that for Fan Daniel, the summoning of Zodiac is just a means to an end, and that end is not the same end as it was for the other Asians. And again, if we're working on precedent, pretty much every antagonist in the Final Fantasy franchise has wanted to become God, right? Has
Right.
wanted to like put themselves on top of the food chain. And I can't help but wonder if Daniel doesn't have similar aspirations.
And you're asking for my take on that?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
if
would
you
love
have
to
a
hear it.
take.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'll rapidly process all the information real quick. I think it's on the list of possibilities for sure. That it would be something we haven't seen yet in this story and doesn't follow precedent and might be sort of a swerve. And that's just why I didn't go there first. We know like that they made a big deal out of Elidibus withdrawing himself from Zodiark, but they also said that Zodiark created an Elidibus primal. So we don't really know what's inside of Zodiark, if there's anything in control of Zodiark right now. And if there's not, who's going to take over? Is it really going to be Zenos taking over? Is it going to be Fandaniel trying to swerve it in at the last second? Are they going to try to use, as you say, Zodiark for their own ends? Or is he, as some implications say, still tempered? We don't know that part yet. We don't know how far the tempering goes into the Sundered for sure. We got some hints both ways. So I think it's like one of many things that they could do with the story. Yeah. And I do expect at some point we're going to see some character try to become that, like, I'm going to, reboot the world in my image God figure.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's take this info I have, put that off the side for the moment. I guess going back to the question of Zenos and Fandaniel, I absolutely agree with Moose that, like, while Frosty, you're right, and looking at them, might not inspire a great deal of sort of confidence or excitement based on what they've been so far, there is the fact that Ishikawa and her team did like such a heckin' good job of making the Asians interesting, where before they were kind of not particularly. And I'm excited to see how they're going to pull it off. Like, I have faith that they're going to pull that off for Zenos and Fandaniel, and I'm excited to see how they do so.
I think so too. I mean, I do have trust that can happen, and I have positive outlook towards what the story could be. So I'm not really doubting that. It's just right now it's hard. I can't visualize it in my head, the great story that's going to happen, because it's not. I can't see the possibilities of it just yet, but she can. I'm sure she can.
Yeah.
And so I will. I would love to see what she can do with it. But I don't know. I don't know.
Like I said, I'm playing devil's advocate against myself. I'm sitting here with the same anxieties and same questions. Like I brought all of this stuff up in my own head. Like, why Zenos? Why are we doing this? Is he even is he worthy of being the big bad of the storyline? Like, this is the end of Hydaelyn and Zodiark, and we're gonna give it to Zenos and Fandaniel and Asahi's body. Like, why? So yeah, no, I'm with you, but I'm playing devil's advocate against myself. I think she can do it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think she can do it. And I think that, like, them being the big baddies is, I mean, all we can say at the moment is that that's what we're being led to think.
That's true.
And we know there's going to be a subversion in there. We don't know where it's going to be. We don't know what it's going to be, but
let's go
there's
back.
There's going to be a twist.
Let's go back to FanFest 2018. And they were, maybe it was 2019. I don't know if it was EU or NA, but they were displaying the bad guys for the expansion. And who did we get? We got Rafkik. What was his name? Sorry for the R. I can't remember what his name was. I know it started with an R.
You talking about Ranjit?
Ranjit. There we go. Ranjit.
Rafiki.
Yeah, Rafiki. I can't. Ranjit. I'm so sorry. I feel like I have to constantly say sorry because I'm just dashing this. But yeah, him, and then we got God. Now I can't remember the other dude's name.
Emmett Selk.
No, we didn't get Emmett Selk. We got the.
Are you talking about
Valkyrie? Yeah,
yeah.
Valkyrie. They announced those two as the main. Like, here's our bad guys. And so, even though we're seeing Fandaniel and Zenos, I can see them going in this direction and bringing another Emmett Selk type thing that kind of comes up in the background. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, maybe.
They're part of it, but they're not the main part of it. Maybe Zodiark. Actually, Zodiark is the main bad guy in the background, and he's playing Zenos, and he's playing everyone else somehow. Yeah.
Maybe.
For all I know, we're going to have some kind of antagonist force in Thavnair that we've got to get through first. Like, they could put some negativity there for all we know. Like, we have no idea what's coming. I still think we haven't seen the half of it in that trailer yet.
Yeah. No, of course not.
I really don't.
Yeah. So I didn't know. Watching this the first time, I don't think I actually knew that they were doing a fan fest. I thought, oh, this is their makeup for fan fest, was this one event. And so I thought everything was going to be laid out here. And so after I saw a trailer, I was like, it feels like something's missing. Like, we just don't really got it all here. But they're going to do the same thing with Stormblood, right? Or what they did with Stormblood, where they show us this, and they're like, oh, wow, crazy. And then they show us a completely different continent and a different job immediately at the beginning. Like, and they're just going to throw it in and splice it all together and make that full trailer.
Oh, yeah, we've absolutely only seen, like, half the trailer, if that.
Yeah. All right. So real quick before we start getting into the frosty questions so you can think about lore stuff, I want to ask you personally, there's been a lot of talk about the lore and everything since this trailer has happened. What things are people not talking about that you think are worth talking about? Is that too big of a question? A little too broad?
I'm not sure what. Listen, to be perfectly honest, I'm not sure what people are and aren't talking about. All I know is what I'm talking about and what my little circle jerk community is talking about. Okay. I have no idea, and we're talking about everything. We're like absolutely overthinking and dissecting absolutely everything because we've got so little information so far, and we are so hungry that we are literally going through like frame by frame when we're like, oh, that's got to be a scythe, right? You can see the kind of the hook, and there's like a little spike down there next to the throne. That's got to be the tip of it, right? So I think we're talking about everything. I don't know if there's anything that's that we've missed. What about you, Moose? Is there something that you think people have missed?
I don't know about missed, because I think between everybody that I've read, like everyone has brought up something. Like it's everything from like how does Mahak tie into this to like how's this going to reveal Orshvath's resurrection? Like everyone has said something at least once, right?
No.
So I feel like a couple things are underrepresented in the crazy bucket, maybe.
Okay.
I think
what's that about Orshvath? Have you actually
I just like pulled something random and unlikely out of my ass, to be honest with you. Okay.
I mean, keep going. No.
Yeah, this is it. This is finally the patch where Orshvath comes back as Ixion.
How would you feel?
Did you remember that?
What?
Okay. You don't remember that? Okay, so back when Orshvath first died, there was a theory that because of the house on the sigil of House Fortum and the whole unicorn imagery, that his resurrection was going to be as a primal, and we'd have to kill Ixion as Orshvath Centaur, and it was like... This gained a lot of ground for a month, man. This is one of my favorite random. Okay, but anyway.
New idea for a show. You're gonna get all these fucking crazy theories, and we're gonna have a show that just says ancient whatever Alligans, right? The crazy thing, and we're just gonna talk about all this fucking shit because there's
a lot of There's a lot of really good conspiracy theories we never got to talk about. But in all seriousness, I think everybody has touched on. We've touched on the possible connections to Maha. We've touched upon the presence of Silver Tear Lake. We've touched upon the Telephori. We've made a lot of jokes about how is Koji going to tie the Lambs of Dalamud into the Telephori. The three things I think are kind of underrepresented in this discussion is number one, Zenos was referred to by Fan Daniel as, quote, having it all, in italics. They wanted to call attention to it. In Japanese, he refers to him as, quote, being the possessor, in quotes. They wanted to call attention to it. So I don't see a lot of attempt to figure out what that means right now, what Emmett Selk figured out, what Emmett Selk did. I think it's pretty clear that in order for this story to end, we're gonna have to focus on Vana and probably the 12. No, I don't see a lot of discussion about that. A little bit, but not a lot. And lastly, I see absolutely no discussion aside from myself about what the hell is the floating continent next to Garlemald on the map. Is anybody gonna talk about this?
Let's talk about it. What is the floating continent? What was your theory, Moose? Do you have?
I don't know. Dark Tulia? I have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
But like nobody's asking either. Like
it's true.
There's like this big someone's saying, is that not an airship? There is an airship. Hold on, let me look at the map and make sure that the big floating thing. Yeah, there's this big Final Fantasy 11 sky looking thing in black, and no one's talking about it. And I'm just like, so are we ignoring it like due to some social contract? Or so yeah, I wanna know what the hell that is.
You know, maybe it just looked cool, and they're just like, put it on there. Just throw it on there. It'll look real cool on there.
Yeah, it could be like the weird like sea serpent at the bottom and the ships from the country that doesn't exist. It could be nothing, but like, are we... hello? Yeah. It's there.
It is. All right, so you got maybe a few things from there. Maybe not things that not necessarily filling holes, but maybe creating new theories with big holes inside them, like a floating continent out over Garlemald.
Yeah, just give me Promethean already. Give me like a purple Promethean to hang out in, and I'll be happy. Like this is just a AAA game.
Yeah, triple. I mean, it is true. You know, it is a AAA game. All right, so talking about that, and I don't know if I put these in any order. If I just threw these fucking things on a piece of paper, and so it makes no sense logically going from one point to another, but I'm going to start off just looking at this logo that we saw kind of at the end. And there is a Star Destroyer on the logo that is crashing into the moon. Is that an Allegan Star Destroyer?
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, it certainly looks like a Ragnarok, doesn't it, Miss?
That's like in my little outline here, I have 4 bullets. One is like the shrug emoji. One is Howl's Murder Castle. Like somehow the castle ends up being a spaceship. So it's like a Garlean Mahai Ragnarok H.R. Giger's pleasure boat, I think someone called part of it. Which H.R. Giger's pleasure boat is going to be stuck in my head for the rest of time now.
Is that an oxymoron?
Something Allegon. Some kind of weird like moon-related monolith we haven't seen yet. I have literally no idea what that is. I think if I were to guess based on just what we know, as if that was all we could know, I would say it's somehow the castle finding its way to the moon. But I have no idea what the hell that thing is. It could be the Allegons coming back from deep space for all I know.
I think Moose is about right. I think it's either representative of that tower in Garlemald, the big, command tower, whatever we want to call it, or else it is, representative of one of the Allegan Ragnaroks. Either one that is... Again, we've been entertaining this idea for like such a long time, like since ARR, we've known that Alleg had a space program, and we were like, well, how do we know there aren't some up there then that survived? Maybe there was a ship out there and they like crashed into the moon, and that's like, where they ended up. There's some sort of, I guess, like derivative of Allegan civilization up there somehow. Moose likes it would certainly make the zone a little more interesting. Yeah. another kind of ideas going around is like, oh well, maybe to get to the moon we get the ironworks to like fix up one of the Ragnaroks that kind of flew out of Dalamud and crashed into Eorzea. It's like any number of things that it could be, but certainly some possibilities.
For all I know, it's like where the remnants of the humans from the Nier storyline are. Like that's how they got to the moon.
Oh please, no, please.
I had to bring up Yoko Taro just for.
Could you imagine?
You didn't have to.
If they like end off like the Alliance raid and they're like, guys, this is going to be a major part. Just to let you know, Nier is now part of Final Fantasy XIV. We're merging the universes here, and it's now, we're going to deal with all the mankind stuff on the moon here, which is the same moon that Nier had to deal with before. Yeah, let's do it.
Next question.
Okay. So once we get to the moon, all right. So we take this giant starship destroyer to the moon. We plunge into its eye like that rocket from that movie, that original movie from so long ago. What can I even expect the moon to be like? So when we think moon, we think giant ball of moon dust. And that's it. And that's all we've been shown. We haven't been even given a glimpse of what... Am I wrong?
I mean, that's all we've been shown on the trailer.
Yeah.
Officially. There's one thing we've unofficially been shown.
We have.
Yeah.
Oh.
What's
yeah.
that? Since Moose has opened that can, I don't.
Yeah, Moose, you started talking about that. So
I don't know.
I've
never seen anything unofficial. What are you talking about?
I heard a rumor from a guy who knows a guy who has not me. Never, I don't know anything. That if you look very closely at one of the cutscenes, you'll notice that what you can see is a very broken Zodiac statue that is sitting in the middle of a very large sigil of Zodiac, just like in the middle of the moon where Elidibus was standing. Mm-hmm. And that's the only other thing we've seen officially, unofficially.
Okay. A good, solid rumor is possibly... Yeah, we'll go with that. So Zodiac, big giant... statue trying to worship Zodiac and everything on the moon. I guess that makes sense.
Oh, it's a little more than that.
Is it more than that?
It's probably a little more than that. So we used to think until like quite recently that all of these like esoteric sort of euphemistic descriptions that were given to us by Heidelin, by the word of the mother, were metaphorical.
Okay.
And it seems more and more that they're literal, and that when Heidelin describes Zodiac as being a moon bound, he may literally be that. And the moon may literally be like Zodiac's corpse, or where his soul, where his essence, where his crystal, his core, however you want to describe it, where it might actually like physically be. And what we're seeing, like that hole we're seeing in the logo, that might be representative of like the chunk that got scooped out of the planet in the Sundering and tossed off into space. And that's, literally like Zodiac was made to be the will of the planet, was probably sitting at the center of the planet somewhere, and now Heidelin's there and was just like, all right, you're off, you're in space. Yeah. I mean, in the Amarot dungeon, like you look up, you don't see a moon. It's not there. It wasn't there. At least, Emmett Salk didn't figure to like put it into his simulation.
It's true.
So yeah, the moon has some importance. That's all that we can say for certain. But it's likely that it is like literally Zodiac.
That we're just going to be walking around on Zodiac.
I mean, in the same way that we're walking around on Heidelin now.
Okay.
I've made a couple of references to this over the years, kind of vaguely. But But do you remember the Burning Heart, like where we fought Bahamut? Like we would go into the crystal, and inside of the crystal there was another version of him, and like you could see out, yeah, that whole thing. I was started imagining what would it be like if it was Zodiarcs, because a lot of the same design motifs that they used for the inside of the Burning Heart were used for the inside of the Chrysalis. And was it just recycling, or was it a clue? So on our planet, if you dig into the planet, you end up in the Ethereal Sea, and in the Ethereal Sea is Hydaelyn. So what if the moon is exactly the opposite, a dead version of that, where if you dug into the moon, you would find kind of the rift where Zodiarc was imprisoned, and the father crystal inside of that's the Chrysalis. Like, we don't know. So I fully expect something similar, that it's a little more literal than we think. I really love the idea that it's really a chunk of the planet, that there's some kind of Amaratine ruins out there, because what really happened was Hydaelyn just like drop kicked Zodiarc through Silver Tear Lake, and that's what Silver Tear Lake is, a massive wound in the planet from where she kicked him out. But yeah, like I do think it's a little more literal than we're expecting.
Yeah, I mean, the Sundering was literal.
Okay.
And it would certainly, like, you know, fit as being part of that. And I mean, we do have like precedent, like the Burn is this, you know, big dead space of land where the Allagans, you know, like scooped out part of the planet, tossed it off into the atmosphere and cauterized it. Yeah, that's, again, we don't know for certain, but the answers are up there.
Do you think that we're going to be seeing like Amarat citizens up there?
No.
Okay.
I don't. I would be surprised. I would be very, very surprised.
What about like ghosts or holograms?
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. Amratine ruins, Amratine holograms, you know, more like Emmett Selk's kind of recreation, something like that. Sure. Allagan survivors of a Ragnarok ship that crashed there and got stranded and have now become like Zodiac cultists to like maintain the shrines and ruins. Maybe, I don't know. They got to put something up there, right?
Now you just implanted an idea of my head of like Hummingways just like happily living in the ruins of an Amaratine civilization, and there's like holograms everywhere that they talk to. I like that too much. I'm not gonna be able to let that go. Damn it.
You know, I was just hoping they would just go super like left field, like out of nowhere, just do like space frogs or something, just up there, just something that's goofy and weird that makes no sense, and it's there. Gotcha. You know, you thought you were gonna get a chemist, but really you got a robot funnel user for your healer.
I mean, the Hummingways are like pretty left field.
All right, explain the Hummingway a little bit to me. For some reason, I feel like I'm drawing a
Hemingway. They're like a rabbit.
Oh
like
yeah, the like naming way, like, but not the naming way. Like okay.
No, naming way's one of them.
Okay.
Yeah. His tribe's on the moon.
Yeah, so that's kind of.
Wouldn't they just fly off the moon when they jumped? I mean, they got some good hops, right?
Yeah, you'd have to have very good hops.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. You have to have pretty damn good hops. But yeah, so Yoshida was saying, you know, it's going to be another beast tribe, and he was going, maybe it's on the moon. I don't know. He was implying that it may or may not be on the moon, and people were immediately like,
it's on the moon.
It's got to be what it is.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll see.
So I'm going to go on this just a little bit longer here, not too much longer, but if you lived on the moon, what would your whole, like, you got to get food, you got to get like all kinds of stuff. Are they growing crops on the moon? I mean,
who's got to get food?
I don't know. Whoever's up there, I assume they eat. Maybe they don't.
Well, the Asians don't need to get food.
So you think? Asians, okay. That's the one example. Yeah, you're right.
I'm just saying we don't know what's up there. We don't know how.
Don't get food, I guess. No. They eat rocks.
I think if you come up with the way that something is alive there in the first place, you've answered your own question about where their food is coming from. Like if there's a hidden base under the surface of the moon, they've got like a biodome in there where they're like growing vegetables, you know, the Martian style.
Oh yeah. with potatoes and pooping on them and stuff like that.
Yeah, Matt Damon's up there.
No, oh god, if we see Matt Damon, I'm quitting the game.
I fully anticipate something is going to be up there because Yoshida's first, again, like, it all goes back to those jokes Yoshida's made over the years. One of the first jokes he made to us was, well, if we went to the moon, who'd give you your side quests? I have to put side quests there, right? So I fully expect something to be there. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But I like Hummingways. So that's my shit post for today. Like,
Okay.
some people prefer like the poo from Final Fantasy VIII.
The what? The poo?
Yeah, the poo.
Well, I don't remember this at all. I don't know. Was there a poo in 8?
Is Chad gonna back me up on this, or am I wrong?
I don't know what's going on.
They're the little blue things.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
okay. I thought you were talking about something else.
Yep.
I thank you. No, they're good. We're good. Let's go on to this next question about Sage here. It's been so long, man. I haven't played 8 in like over 2 decades. All right, it's been 20 years or so since I played 8. So give me a little bit of a break on it. So let's talk about Sage. Let's talk about Sage. We got the funnels. We talk about everything. Just out of curiosity, with all the vast lore and everything else that you guys had for what possibly could be the healer, does Sage lead from any of it? Is there any little bit that's like, oh, that makes sense? Oh my god,
there
it's
it
a chipmunk.
is. I was
it's
waiting
chipmunk.
for it.
It's
There it is.
chipmunk.
The chipmunk. There he is.
There it is. I don't know what happened, Moose.
Oh man.
All right, I'll let Ethys go first here.
Top production quality.
Yeah.
Look, Yoshida has kind of already said in the couple of interviews that he's had about it is that he like very deliberately made it something that people weren't going to expect. At least like with the Nuliths, you know, he wanted to have it being like completely different from any healer that had ever been in the Final Fantasy franchise before. He was thinking like, well, any other healer is probably just going to be using, you know, like some kind of staff. It's just going to end up looking like a conjurer, like a white mage. Like, how do we make it kind of look and feel different? And then people coming up with this idea of like, oh, well, what if we have a weapon that, you know, the user like controls magically? And that's when they kind of went in that direction with the Norths. So for that was very surprising to me. As for, I guess, again, you've got written in the notes here, and if it's Garlean, why again? And are people, I don't know if people are jumping on that, if people are thinking that it's Garlean. To me, it's like almost self-evident that it's of Sharlayan design.
Okay.
And at least with the title, like we don't have any like capital S sages, like you know, sort of disciple of magic sages. In Sharlayan, but we've got a lot of sages, like a lot of like little s sages. We've got a lot of references to people that are described as sages. Sage as a title is basically synonymous with Archon, right? Like when you get your Archon tattoo, as we describe it, that infers the title of Sage. But in the same way that in 14 there's a difference between a scholar and a scholar, you know what I mean? Like Moonbreeder is a scholar that just happens to have an axe, you know? Sage is kind of the same. Yeah, she was. She invented White Oricide and the Ethereal Siphon. She was a great scholar. But I think Sage is kind of the same, right? Is that we've seen like in Sharlayan lore a lot of references to sages, specifically like that term. Okay. And I wonder now if they're not going to like take this job and apply it to them, or if it's going to be more like, okay, this is just like kind of like Machinist in Ishgard is like, okay, this is just like this new thing, like this new job that Sharlayan has kind of invented recently based on, you know, various things, right?
Okay, so real quick, I'm going to say my complete theory of where it came from and everything is siding with everything you said right now and not my previous understanding. I will defend my previous understanding a little bit, but Moose, are you still a chipmunk?
Check 1, 2.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, oh, thank God. Okay, let me know when that happens.
Okay.
We have yet to isolate the cause of this random chipmunkification. So yeah, he nailed it. He nailed it. I think they were trying to come up with something new because nothing else quite fit, and they were gonna go all new, try to figure out exactly what they should do. And somebody just threw out Gundam funnels, and they were like, "Yeah." So like, I could go that route, or I could go the route that like we called Gun Healer in 3.0. What are you talking about?
Did we?
Yeah, I mean, we did. We were thinking like chemist with a gun, and I guess this is kind of. I mean, they are kind of guns. Like they're shooting lasers.
Yeah, they're shooting
I'll
something.
give you that.
They're shooting something.
They're shooting something. Definitely shooting something.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not surprised that people are looking at it and they're thinking Garlean because it does seem like vaguely sort of Magitech. And we've gotten the confirmation that we're going to Garlean. We haven't gotten the confirmation that we're going to Charlian. I'm pretty sure we are. I'm pretty heckin' confident that we are. We haven't got that confirmation yet. What we do have, though, is like the design of the Norse themselves are extremely evocative of Charlian design and other like Charlian gear that we've seen. And secondly, like the little job teaser they did, this in the Cabal library. They're standing.
I was just gonna bring that up. Yep.
Yeah, like I double took when I first saw that. I was like, oh. Crap! Is that like like an internal shot of Garlean of Charlian somewhere? Are we seeing, the first like images of that, and then looking back, it became like very obvious that no, that was from Gabor hard mode. They just kind of like slapped them in a couple of different rooms, fighting like this new mob that they designed and whatever. But there is a straight line between. Yeah. Sage and Charlian.
You know me. I usually rely on what we can say we know, and then things we can infer based on precedent, and then wild possibilities. But I like to lean close to what we know in precedent at first. And I think that they would have used a different word if it wasn't Charlian, probably, because there is so deep of an association between Sage, Kenja, and Charlian. So, like, to use that word and not have it relate to Charlian is not impossible, but I think a little improbable if we were going to make a first guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so me being scrub that skips a handful of cutscenes and everything else, I think robots, and I think Garlemald, right? And so,
which is fair.
That's why my relation went there. And I think if anyone is dumb and confused like me, it's because of that. The Charlian thing, what you said, makes 100%. Like I cannot even. If someone says, "Oh, it's Garlemald," I'll be like, "You're a fucking idiot. You don't even know. You don't even know how this is linked to Charlian stuff." So I'm kind of on that board right now. Past Frosty doesn't know what he's talking about. But absolutely, that makes perfect sense to me now. I just thought they were like, oh, cool, robots. We're going to Garlemald. Let's get some robot stuff in there. Throw it on it. Yeah, now we can... they found ways to shoot healing or potions in the people, and that's what we're doing. I don't know. I wasn't expecting it at all. Okay, so let's do this. Let's jump to another thing that's standing out. Not just, in our minds, but on the planet itself. Towers are rising up everywhere. And I think we saw inside a tower, that's our assumption, when Daniel Man, he went up the elevator and talked to Zenos Man. And we're assuming that they... All right, I don't know. Maybe I'm really weird. When I saw that, I know what it's related to a bit in Final Fantasy XIV, but my mind jumped completely to this off-tangent movie that only maybe a lot of people haven't even seen because it's a little old and dated. It's Event Horizon.
Oh, yeah,
I know that one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so the crazy demon hell world that they went to, for some reason, when I saw all that architecture, all I thought was crazy demon hell world, and Event Horizon popped into my head. And so I don't know. Isn't that what was it? What's the name? Mock, is that right? Is that the architecture type that looks kind of like Demon Hell World stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what we're assuming with these towers?
No, that's not what we're assuming.
Oh, okay.
We
Assume
are
is a strong word.
we are noticing that it's certainly like evocative of that.
Okay.
We were looking at the locations that they were showing up in 5.4 and trying to draw some association.
Okay.
Moose, what was your take on this? And okay, first of all, I know some people say Mark, I know some people say Mahach. Right? I think Koji says the latter, doesn't he?
I say it different every time. Because if you go by the katakana and go by what it said in game, I don't remember ever hearing it in game. We might have, and I just forgot.
No,
but like,
never. Nowhere is it ever said aloud.
The first time I read it, I said Mahak. And then based on the katakana, I've heard other people saying Maha. And then I just pick one at random every day.
Okay. All right.
So real quick, before we dive too much into it, I don't know it very well, but could you explain to everybody what Mahak is?
Black mages.
Just black mages.
Were, the War of the Magi. So the 5th astral era, which is the era before obviously the 6th astral era is where all like the contemporary nation states, they kind of like built up, right? That's what ended 5 years ago. So, you had white mages versus black mages. Black mages were bad. They summoned Void Scent. They used Void Scent as batteries. Like, Void Scent have a lot of ether in them, at least the more powerful ones. And they put them in these coffins and used them as fuel cells, as a power source, as batteries, right? And the reason, presumably, why their architecture, particularly in the Void Arc, looks the way that it does, looks really like organic and Geiger-esque, is because the construction is being fueled by Void Sand, right?
Which is from a planet that was completely blasted and had a flood of darkness on it, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's from one of the shards that got messed up by a flood of darkness. Yeah. Okay. And, the Void Scent, they used to be people or creatures that were, normal, like, looking like we do on the source, that were native to that place, but they got transformed as a result of the flood of darkness. So the towers, what my sort of intuition is telling me is that they look the same because they're of the same aspect, right? Is that they're aligned to darkness, to astral, however you want to describe it, is like the Asians and Zodiac are kind of that same polarity as all of the Void Scent nonsense, right? So it could be that they're like literally mock technology that's been, used there in some way. But Asians, they have this kind of like proclivity to use Void Scent, to use like dark magics. And it's just like, it's going to look more or less the same, isn't it?
Okay. No, that makes sense. Moose, anything else to throw in there?
No, I ended up in pretty much the same place. When it comes to Mahak, I'll call it Mahak for now. Okay. There were 12 cities originally, and it eventually came down to 2 empires, and then Nim off in the corner just trying to survive. But like as the black mages turned to Void Scent and the white mages turned to golem construction, it really took on that theme of like angelic light and demonic dark. And when you go to the demonic dark side, you end up with a lot of that, again, H.R. Giger-esque kind of biomechanical architecture. And when I first saw the towers, the first place my mind went, well, it's kind of Mahak, but the color's wrong and it's not quite right. They don't do straight lines, they don't do symmetry as much. And it kind of looks like Garlemald, but they don't really go bioorganic very much. And then we see Fandaniel using them, and it's like, oh, maybe that's the connection. Maybe that's the connection of bringing the demonic themes, the Asian themes, the Garlean themes all together. But is there a direct connection to Mahak? We don't know.
Okay. I mean, it would make sense, but I don't know. The whole thing just seems whatever. It looks cool. I think that's where we're going. It looks cool.
I think that's probably where they're at too.
Yeah, it's probably what it is. So the thing that I was going to talk about, and guys, I didn't remember Fandaniel's name when I was writing a note, so I apologize for what I put in there as his name. I was like, what was it?
You're not sorry.
I'm not really sorry. But Fandaniel, he we kind of talked about this already. He wants to destroy everything, but maybe he doesn't want to destroy everything. So I feel like we can probably skip over that question, unless if you guys wanted to go a little bit more into Fandaniel and his insanity. Or you know what? Do you have any reason outside of just the belief that he doesn't really want to destroy everything?
I don't see a motivation for him to want to do that. And the idea of like the villain, I don't know, like the idea of the villain just being like, hey, what's up? I'm here. It's me, Fandaniel. Nice to meet you. I want to die. There's got to be more to his character arc than that.
Okay.
You know?
For me, the timing is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
His timing speaks to different motivations. If it was just, hi, I'm Fandaniel and I want to die, he would have started moving pretty much immediately at the cusp of being free. And he would have done it in a way that best enabled him to do that. But that's not what we saw. We saw him coming in disguise, more or less, to Zenos the instant that Zenos starts gunning for Zodiark. Why is he only interested in specifically Zenos when specifically Zenos is moving on specifically Zodiark? Is it just because that's why they wrote the plot? Like they just kind of synced these people up in the plot that way? But I think he has a motivation for picking that time and that way. And if it's not that, then teaming a completely like boring nihilist, I want to die villain up with a completely boring life isn't worth living if I can't fight my friend character, it's not a very interesting dynamic for the duo either. So I have to assume there's something more because I have to assume they wrote a good story.
Okay. Yeah, just yeah, you're right. Okay. So let's go away from the moon stuff for just a little bit.
Okay.
Let's talk about Thavnir. Did I say that one right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thavnir.
All right. I got one out of a billion. All right. So Thavnir is kind of this new area. It seems kind of colorful. Some people compared it to Brazil a little bit. Some people compared it to India.
Okay.
Yeah. Different thoughts about kind of the relation towards real world stuff. You always thought we were going there. For someone like me who might not see that as clearly, why do you think that we're going to Thavnir? Why was it such a prevalent thing over the last 4 expansions?
Well, I thought we were going there because they've been talking about it since 1.0. Simple as that,
They've
right?
been talking about it in the storyline, or they've been talking about it on panels? Okay.
No, they've been talking, like, it's been mentioned in game and has been like referenced in game since 1.0, and like you don't start like seeding a location and name dropping a location if you don't like at least have it on the cards. If the game goes long enough, you're going to end up there eventually.
Okay.
It's just been on the list. As for why it kind of looks the way it did, yeah, we've gotten like a lot of mixed messages and mixed directions about like the potential real world influences of Thavnir and Radzat-Han, like over the period that they've sort of been exploring that culture. But generally, I mean, okay, the most important thing we know about Thavnir is that it is centralized. It is seemingly equatorial. It is neutral with Garlemald, and it has like trade relationships with pretty much everywhere and everyone in the world. It is like between the three great continents, it's this kind of central trade hub. And as a result, it has kind of gotten influence from the sort of like Middle Eastern aesthetic that we're seeing in Southern Ilsabard, the Eorzean aesthetic, the Far Eastern aesthetic is all kind of like melting together in this one place, and has been for thousands of years. They were saying in the showcase that the Radzat state has been around for thousands of years, which, if we are to take that literally, it means it's much older than any of the states in Eorzea and most other, places in the world. I think Yoshida literally said in the showcase that it had survived like previous Umbral eras. So at least it's going to be have been around since the time of like Amdapor and Mahak, right?
Moose?
Which I think is fascinating.
I wish I could say that I had a single consistent line of logic for why we were going there.
There's a tower
for me,
there.
it's... Uh-oh.
What?
It's gonna be as simple as that. There's gonna be a tower there.
Yeah, okay.
For me, it was different in every expansion. In early 2.0, it was because we talked about it a lot. The Zodiac Braves were from there. Why wouldn't we go there? And then it was thematic for swimming. It was an island nation. There were deserts and jungles there. Like, great, cool. If we're going to go swimming, that's a good place to go. Then it was because we had a consulate. Why would you have a consulate for a place you're never going to see? And then it was this like grand conspiracy that's the best place to stage an attack on Garlemald from. Like, what you do is you fortify the Alamegan land bridge, and you fortify the Othardian mountain pass, and you convince Thavnair that Garlemald is no longer a sustainable neighbor, and you march up through the whole continent and seeing like cities and dungeons and doing this whole war campaign. And then you had like surround the capital from three sides, and I was like, yeah, that's going to be the expansion. And then now it's not. So I don't really have a consistent reason, no. I thought it was going to be sensible every year.
Mm-hmm.
I think the two reasons that I sort of suspect we're going there, again from narrative perspective, is I'm pretty confident that the narrative is just going to be taking us to deal with each of these towers. Basically, we're going to have this idea of, we can thwart Van Daniel's plan, we can prevent the apocalypse if we just go and take out these towers, stop whatever it is that they're doing to everyone and everything. And secondly, because 6.1, we're going to be moving into a new narrative arc, which means that the seeds for that narrative arc are going to have to be planted in the locations that we're going to in 6.0. And Thavnair, once again, is a place that we know is a gateway to the rest of the world, particularly to Mericidia. They're the only nation in the world that has any diplomatic or trade relations with Mericidia. So I'm not saying like we're going to end up in Mericidia in like 7.0 or whatever, but I am saying that that Thavnair to me seems like a kind of a natural place to start going somewhere else, to sort of start planting those seeds for a new narrative arc.
Mm-hmm. Okay, no, that makes sense. I, of course, from what you said, makes sense, right? So I'm imagining everything you're telling me is the truth, because I absolutely have no clue. So that's why it makes sense to me, because you like lay down a foundation. Like, I have a blank slate of story here, and you're just like boop boop boop. I'm like, yeah, cool, yeah, that makes sense. So
You're too easy.
I'm too easy, man. I'm too easy with this. So is there going to be so there's the Thavnair area, there's the moon. We think we're going to Garlemald. There isn't any other new city or new place that we'd be going to, because that's a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've been told that like there's going to be kind of like there was in Shadowbringers. There's going to be like a small kind of city hub and then a large one. In Shadowbringers, we have the small one as Yulmore. We have the large one as the Crystarium. And we've already been told that Radzat is going to be the small one, right? I am like pretty dang confident that the large one's going to be Charlian.
You don't think it's going to be the moon?
No, I don't think so. I think the moon is probably going to be kind of like the Tempest in Shadowbringers. That would be wild if there was like a big city on the moon. I think that would be wild. But I would be honestly at this point be really surprised if it wasn't Charlian.
Okay. I'm banking that there's a moon city.
Okay.
Yeah, just let you know.
Right.
So
Okay.
I can do the I told you so when we get there.
Please, by all means.
I'm not gonna build a triangle here, so let's see what's on my list. What can I say is a third one? I think it's possible we'll get like a new city that we haven't heard, like when we first went to Kugane, that there's just somewhere in the Empire that we're going to have access to the capital from, but it's a much more stable place, and we'll have kind of a way to help restore what happens in Garlemald afterwards. That's one possibility. Charlian is a big one on my list. The possibility of there still being ruins on a moon is a big one on my list. Another city that's just like in the middle of the continent that they're going to build up, even though we've never heard of it before. So how do I not triangulate myself here? I'm going to say that the big city is called Nalmaska.
Okay.
When Garlemald first started their march, one of the first places they conquered was supposed to be Dalmasca, and that got retconned hard, and they changed the name of the city to Nalmaska.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say, yeah, that's my belief. The big city is Nalmaska.
They did.
All right. My dogs agree with you completely in the background, by the way. There's thumbs up.
Outstanding.
So, are we... All right. Let's get off that for a little bit, and let's talk about... I do... You know what? I want to hear a little bit less lore and just, like, first initial impressions. Because I don't remember their name. The elephant beast tribe?
The Matanga?
The Matanga. There we go. Matanga. What'd you guys think about the Matanga when you saw it?
I mean,
I
thought...
The first thing?
Yeah. The first thing.
He was great in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, that I thought his keyboard skills were excellent.
Yeah.
Nice. They seem hyper realistic in the rendering that I saw in there that I think was a little odd. Not realistic, like, oh, I believe it's true. It's just like there's a lot of detail that, like, you know, it was a little off-putting. Is the only thing I would have to say about it. Did you guys not get that same vibe?
Did you get that like elephant-based uncanny valley moment for you or something?
Almost. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard for me to explain. I just saw it and I was like, something just seems a little creepy. But at the same time, I loved it because I love ugly characters and ugly beasts.
Oh, we know you do.
Well,
yeah.
I assume they have to be more sympathetic than the ones that we met on Authored, and I have to assume.
I'm sorry for them.
Yeah, I have to assume they're going to be a gateway to like how beast tribes are treated on Elsbard, and that we're going to see a little bit of that. But aside from those two thoughts, like literally all the thought I gave it was, he looks like Max Rebo, and then that was it.
Okay.
Unfortunately, as far as we know, they don't get treated much better in the Near East than they do in Eorzea. Apparently, the Matanga have been used for like, you know, millennia as like slave soldiers for Near Eastern warlords. They were like captured in large numbers by the Empire as well to act as like laborers. And the ones we see on the Azim Steppe are actually a group that escaped from the Empire and just like ran and ended up on the Azim Steppe. And for some reason, they just hate the Zayla. I'm really curious as to what we'll find out about that. But like the Encyclopedia Eorzea Volume 2 like makes a point of them just having this like inexplicable hatred for the Zayla, where like they're not even trying to defend themselves or like anything like that. They just really like want to kill some Zayla.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I wasn't thinking hate and anger when I saw them. I was thinking,
No, they seem pretty chill.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
they seem pretty peaceful.
Hmm.
I don't know. Man, I really want to get that image. All right, how do you spell Matanga? I just want to look at that again so I can just make sure I'm not. Let me
Do
see.
you want me to grab it for you?
I think yeah, I think I found it. All right,
Okay.
yeah. So I'm gonna put this in
You got it?
let me open image in new tab. I'll put this in Twitch chat here.
All right, you do that.
If I can do it. Let's see. Copy, paste. There you go. So that's the image that the slide they showed.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, like those wrinkles are very detailed. Am I just
Really
off?
getting hung up on that.
Because I feel like I'm out by myself on this, and it feels weird because to me it's like such a prominent thing that I see. It just feels like just a little over detailed. I don't know.
It does
I'm
seem
trying
to
to.
be. It does seem to be a more detailed model than like we usually get for these races. So I'll give you that.
Okay.
I'm just trying to imagine your facial expressions in the theater watching Avatar.
I did watch that in a theater. I can't remember. Anyways, let's get off elephants for a little bit. That's something I didn't think I'd say. So, anima. All right, so let's go into anima here. Completely another just big point of the whole presentation. When you saw anima, were you thinking, oh, was that like, oh, that makes sense, or was that like, holy shit, I wasn't expecting this. This is cool.
The second one and then the first one.
Okay.
Anima is like something that I've been wanting since 2.0 and something that like I've been talking about. Like I can go back to old videos of mine from like 2015 where I'm just like nerding out over the idea of like an anima fight appearing somewhere and like how that would be and like what that would look like. So I was so excited for this. I think it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
But then I was like, no, yeah, that makes sense. I think I know like how they're gonna slap anime in and where she's gonna fit.
Okay, so do you want to throw that theory out there, or you want Moose to?
No, I want Moose to respond first, and
Okay.
then we can talk theories, I guess.
Okay.
Now I'm hesitant. What if we came to the same conclusion?
Then you'll be first to say it.
The first thing I thought was just yes, because I feel like Final Fantasy X had a lot of great designs, and I just don't see them
Yes.
often. And Anima was one of the ones that I was like, I would love to see some variation of that on every Final Fantasy, and she doesn't come up very often. So when I saw that she'd be here, and my favorite Final Fantasy game, that was awesome. So I was mostly just caught up in the childlike excitement of yes, finally Anima again. And if they find a way, like you said, it makes sense, right? Because we're seeing a lot of the demonic ideas, we're seeing a lot of the HR Giger ideas, we're seeing a lot of that come along. And so when I put those two together, the first thought that comes into my mind is I will give them triple points if she is somehow like the spirit of someone's mom turned into one of these entities.
No. Oh no. See now I have to do this. On State of the Realm, myself and Larry, and mostly Larry, came up with a theory.
It's funny.
I mean, this is Larry's idea that he forced me to kind of justify it.
I'm going to stop you for a second at this.
Please, by
I
all
bet
means.
this is the same theory Larry gave me when he came on my show the day after.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah. So I think I know what you're talking about. Because
okay,
go ahead. Yeah.
So Larry thinks, in the same way that I guess Final Fantasy X spoiler, in the same way that Anima was originally Seymour's mother in Final Fantasy X, that it's going to be Varus's mother, so Zenos's grandmother, and that the I'll try to put this more politely than we did on State of the Realm. the process of copulating with and subsequently receiving the essence of an Ascian transformed her in the same way that a Sin Eater or a Void Scent might transform.
So you're saying that she...
I'm not saying, hey, I'm not saying it, all right?
I think you are.
Larry had this theory, and I just found a way to make it as sound as possible, okay?
So she had sex with an Ascian.
An Ascian, yeah.
A Scion, same thing. Yeah, no.
Okay.
Ascian had sex with an Ascian and gave birth to Varus.
Oh, no. Yeah. Gave birth to Varus, yeah.
Varus, yeah. And eventually, that went down to... Yeah, no, it's not the same thing, chat. God, it's a joke. All right. So the... eventually that's why they like Zenos so much, because he's, I don't know, part, maybe.
You lost me there.
I don't know.
No, what I'm saying is, okay, am I gonna have to make it like a little less PG for you to understand, Frosty?
They have to click the mature rating to get to this channel, so go ahead.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So the implication is that Ascian jism is like a flood of darkness for the person's orifice, and that subsequently their body is transformed, and that is how you get animo. Again, that's Larry's theory, all right? I can't take credit for that.
That's good.
That's on Larry.
I'm so
100%.
glad you're throwing it off to Larry on that one.
Mm-hmm. Now, if I can steer away from that, I think that Anima's a terminus beast. Okay. And I think that kind of like we had light ones, in Shadowbringers, right? These big, powerful Sin Eaters, effectively. I think that there's going to be the equivalent for terminus beasts, is that they're going to be popping up everywhere, and, in the tower or near the tower, on top of the tower, something to do with the tower. There's going to be like these big, monstrous ones, and Anima's going to be one of them. Okay. I like the idea of it being someone's mother, having a similar kind of significance to what it did in Final Fantasy X. But I liked that idea until Larry put the conclusion in my head, and now I hate it.
Okay.
So I don't know if you're feeling differently now, Moose.
Look, you got yourself into this mess. You get yourself out. I pretty much just ended at what I said in the beginning. Like, it's very open-ended. Childlike excitement into, yes, we're going to be seeing the demons, and it's going to be tied to H.R. Giger somehow, and bonus points if it's someone's mom. I would have gone to Zenos' mom first, personally, just because you can tie in some of the characterization there, and it would be much more fun to do that way. But I just left it completely open at any of these things would be cool. I'm just stoked Anima's here.
It's Zenos' mom. Again, it's just what it is.
Yeah, maybe.
Sure. Where is his mom currently, right?
I don't think she was. They never mention any of the moms in this game, which is really frustrating. Yeah, no one has a mom.
Oh yeah, I guess it could be like literally anyone's mom, right?
This is the opposite of Pokemon, where no one has a dad. So like, I could see it being a number of things. Like maybe if it was Zenos' mom, whatever Emmett Selk found a way to do to make Zenos as special as he is ultimately resulted in the mom eventually becoming that. Like, I have no idea. I haven't thought about it too deeply. I'm just, again, stoked Anonymoose here.
Okay. All right. So let's go off that, because that just completely ruined everything about that conversation. So
Hey.
Larry by proxy. Larry ruined it by proxy.
So... La Brea is back in some form or way.
No.
Right? And she's back, and he's doing a new raid for us. They decided they were not done with him. And so we're going to face him in the new raid. Right? It's Pandemonium. Yeah. So we saw that, and for some reason they were just like, this is going to be maybe the ending to whatever ASEAN storyline there is, right? That's the only thing I can guess, is that this is wrapping up the ASEAN stuff with that raid.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Again, as I was saying, Yoshida sort of said that, like, okay, 6.1 MSQ, we're going to be, maybe on to a new story arc, but I do think that they're going to use Pandemonium and probably the 24 man as an opportunity to kind of like, resolve this stuff that is kind of like sidelined a little bit by the kind of mad rush that 6.0 is no doubt going to be. Why do we see La Habrea there? Do you have any thoughts about that, Moose? Because like we've been told like no uncertain terms that La Habrea is dead, that whatever was left of La Habrea was, done and dusted and gone when Estinian, poked the eyes at the end of Stormblood. Do you have any thoughts?
I have a few, and they're kind of along a hierarchy of insanity.
Yep.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Let's start with the top of the hierarchy.
Do you want to start with the least crazy or the most crazy?
Let's go most first, and then
Most
that way
crazy?
the
Okay,
stuff,
so-
other stuff will start to seem really sane and logical near the end.
Okay, so
I'll see if we
La
can top
Habrea's Esper is Mateus, and if you go back to Final Fantasy II and Emperor Mateus and Pandemonium and that whole kind of return from hell kind of thing, you've got like a really good basis for a theme of how you can take that. La Habrea has been the unfortunate victim of some severe villain decay since his exit in 3.0. The Reaper was so cool in 1.0, but it is nothing. It is absolutely nothing compared to what we've seen in the characterization and threat posed by the other two originals. It's been so much better. So this is their opportunity, I think, to give all three that like highest level threat that they can. So the craziest thing I can think of is that it's going to be some deep FF2 kind of nuttiness when we do Mateus and Pandemonium.
I can top that.
Okay, go.
I can absolutely top that on craziness. Okay, so Pandemonium is the capital of hell, right? Mm-hmm. Zodiac's purpose, what Zodiac did when it was summoned, was rewrite the laws of existence, the laws of nature, the laws of magic, the laws of whatever, the structure of the world. Zodiac was designed and programmed, it seems, by La Habrea. So, one, the seven hells are real, and two, they were designed by La Habrea.
Okay, I can.
And that all of the horrible, nasty things that he has created and designed over the millennia are in there. And with the Unsundered gone, they're not, being dealt with. They're not being fed. They're not being, kept under suppression. And we're going to have to do a little Dante's Inferno to get down in there and deal with them. And maybe, we'll see. I think La Habrea is dead. I think La Habrea is absolutely 100% dead and done and dusted. But, maybe we'll see something like, like High Floatius or like, Emmett Sulk sort of like memory recreation, that kind of stuff going on with La Habrea down there. Maybe.
Okay,
but that is like the top of my like insane theories.
What was discussed on the show before, after the real reveal came out, is that it was just going to be dealing with crazy creations he made, and it was just leftovers that we have to clean up, and that was pretty much it. But which goes along with your crazy idea. I didn't realize it was so crazy. So maybe maybe there's more sane ideas. Moose, do you have more sane ideas in your hierarchy?
Most of my sane ideas are just peeling the crazy stuff off of that same idea, that they want La Habrea to be the vehicle for clearing up a lot of the mysteries that we have left. by giving him a little deeper characterization, by giving him a bigger threat level, by explaining a little bit more about him in context, putting him on the same level as Emmett Selk and Elidibus, which I think arguably he deserves. Like, he was our poster boy for 14's villain team originally. Like, it's a lot like Gaius coming back and trying to find a way to do his character a little more authentically in terms of being true to 14 and what 14 originally presented him as. So I think for La Habrea to be the vehicle for it makes sense. I just don't know how he's going to be the vehicle. Is he somehow going to have escaped the eyes at the last minute, which I can think of 20 times he could do it, but they said he didn't. So is it going to be that he has survived wherever you go when that happens somehow? Is it going to be that there's a wraith of him still connected to Zodiaric's power somehow? Is it just, the Platonic form of the La Habrea coming back somehow? Is it a primal a la Elidibus from his memories somehow? I have no idea, but I think it is just using him as a vehicle to explain more about him. Even maybe give Elidibus and La Habrea's true Greek names. Like, I see it as cleanup and anti-villain decay.
Okay. Makes sense to me. But, I mean, they gave us an image and a name, and that's it, right? They didn't...
That's all we got.
They didn't really do too much more than that.
I think the most information we have is, his sigil is made out of fire. What does that mean?
Okay.
He liked fire. He really liked fire.
He did. All right, so let's go to the Alliance raid now. So we're done with Nier. It's out of the game, right? That's the expectation. It's gone. We're finishing up here in 5.5. Ethys could be happy. Yeeting out Yoko Taro. And then we're going to put in a new original story. We're not going to bring in Chrono Trigger. We're not going to bring in Dragon Quest.
I mean, it was not mutually exclusive. Crystal Tower's original story, but it had the Crystal Tower in it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. What is our story for our original Final Fantasy XIV story for the Alliance raid?
So
I saw you got some paper out, by the way, at this.
The exact quote from what Koji was saying in the showcase is that it's going to be dealing with a piece of Eorzean lore steeped in mystery. Eorzean lore, not Novrant lore, not Garlean lore, not Heidelin lore, Eorzean lore specifically. And that was really interesting to me because I really thought that at least like the one of, if not both of the 8-man or 24-man, we would be going back to the first. But not only are we on the source, we're in Eorzea, or at least dealing with an Eorzean mystery. So the question really is like, what's on our list of Eorzean lore steeped in mystery? And I know that pretty close to the top of the list for both Moose and I is going to be Silver Tier, right?
Yeah, that's the big one for me.
Moose, so how good are you going to feel if it's like Silver Tier? You're just like, finally, it's been my entire life and they finally did it? Or
depends on how it's handled. I expected it to be MSQ. I expected it to come full circle to 1.0 and end in the MSQ with the presence of Silver Tier Lake. So if we're just wrapping that up in a side story, I don't know what to expect. Is it going to be like a really good quality side story, or is it just a slapdash place we get rid of things that we don't want to deal with? And if enough thought and care is put into it, I think it could be equivalent to the MSQ. But I'm nervous about it, which is one reason why I want to consider other possibilities aside from Silver Tier Lake, even if I'm really excited for it to be Silver Tier Lake.
Okay, what other possibilities do you think we have?
Not a lot. So there was actually in the original lore that came out, like the first blurbs they ever gave for 1.0, they said that the Garlean March right after they took Alamigo was stopped by a primal. And I asked what primal that was because I thought that maybe it was just clumsy wording. Like maybe it was the primals that first appeared in 1562 when, that's the earliest we've been told they appeared in that way. So I thought, like, if we could just say, oh, it was Leviathan, oh, it was Ramu, like we could just get it off the table. Ramu would have been unlikely, but geographically, whatever. Anyway, the answer to that question was I can't tell you yet. There was a plan for it. We know what it is. We've never addressed it. And then it vanished again. It never came up again. So there's this possibility of a primal that we've never seen, that we know nothing about, that's been around since somewhere between 1557 and 1562, and we've never heard about it and never seen it again. And it was enough to turn Garlemald back. So the mysterious primal's one. If Werelit doesn't clear it up forever, we've got Sabik. We've never touched on the elementals to the depth that I think we should have, and that they were like implied to be in 1.0. So I think there's a couple routes it could take, but I do want Silvertear Lake most.
Okay.
I agree. I've gotten a lot of people asking me like, oh, but what about this and what about that? And I'm like, there's not really mysteries. Those are just things that you want to see more of, right? People are like, oh, what about the Galmara? I'm like, okay, Galmara, great. Where's the mystery? Where's the mystery in Galmara? Because
I have one mystery in Galmora.
Oh,
just one. Have you ever seen what the ruins looks like in 1.0?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, we've got one mystery. What are those little amber scale rock tonberry looking things that were surrounding the ruins before? I never got a good answer on that, and I'm mad about it. But sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
That was good.
No, you're right. We don't have anything about Amber Scale Rock. That's true. And that's another one that came out. And I was like, yeah, maybe. But that doesn't seem like something that would be enough to seed a whole, 24-man.
No, it's got to be like a job quest.
Yeah. Neon Crep's Hope came up as well. And I was like, okay, I don't really see where the mystery there is other than, who he was and where he came from and, how he had access to this sort of magical technology or whatever. But I think it's far more likely that, that's not an Eorzean mystery. It's like a Sharlayan mystery, really. And I think that if we're going to learn about that anywhere, it'll be, when and if we go to Sharlayan. So, yeah, I kind of agree. Top of my list here, again, the Mystery Primal and Silvertear. And there's a lot of other things that I would like to see in Eorzea that I would like to learn more about. But Eorzean lore steeped in mystery. We really don't have that many left that are kind of left us hanging at this point.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Everything, I would think any element of the game right now is aimed towards wrapping up any part of the story that we still have major questions on.
I agree.
They have to do it, or else they can't finish and go on to a new story. Which I do want to ask, what does that even look like, going on to a new story in Final Fantasy XIV? Are we just like, oh, well, we don't need to worry about the Scions anymore. We don't care about them. We're going off on our new adventure. Just completely cut off all ties from everyone and just in a whole new part of the world. What does it look like to go past our main story?
I don't think it necessarily means leaving all these characters behind. I'm expecting to leave some of them behind. I'm expecting, a not insignificant number of them to probably beef it somewhere between now and 6.1. Mm-hmm. We know almost nothing about Mericidia. We know almost nothing about the New World, and there's plenty of space to build new stories, build new mysteries there. We've got various potential extraterrestrial threats that could be dealt with. There's a lot of stuff still to kind of chew on. I don't mind the idea necessarily of leaving the Scions behind and having new characters and having a new poster child that's not Y'shtola. The idea of new players jumping in beyond 6.0 being oh, you can just literally being given the option to just skip the first story and start at 6.1. I'm not opposed to that, but I don't see them leaving all that behind. I don't see them completely turning a new page where we don't take any of the characters or any of the sort of baggage with us, because it's still going to be Final Fantasy 14, right?
Yeah. Moose, are you kind of on the same page with that?
I'm on the page in between those two pages.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little weird, but so like I think what it means to be done with this is that like Ethys said, we have the new world, we have Mericidia. If we don't go there in 6.0, we'll have Charlayan. We've got a lot of places to see, and a lot of the ways we could engage with those places that might be fun have always been hindered by two questions. What about the Imperial invasion? What about ASEAN machinations? Like, we've had to worry about, why are we ignoring those threats? Why aren't we dealing on that with that right now every time we do something that's not that? And we'll never have to worry about that again. We can go to Mericidia and not have to wonder what Garlemald or the ASEANs are doing, and that's going to let us focus on big, cool new places. So that's the big thing for me. It's just that free up of focus. That's what it means to me. I don't know what it's going to be on, but that it's going to be free and focused on that means a lot to me. And I mean, for all we know, Nero is going to have all the free time he needs to piss off the whirl, and it's going to be just eldritch horrors coming out of the cosmic swirl for all we know. Like, we don't know what's coming. But as far as characters go, I think we've got an option between keeping the Scions and getting new people. Is we have a very large, like, JV team of Scions that have been hanging around the Rising Stones doing virtually nothing for years. And what if, Thancred and Y'shtola got to retire and we hung out with the Hoary Boulder for a while and Ochre Boulder for a while, and like, what if those were our main team for a while?
Yes.
Okay.
I like that. Hang with my boy Arenvold and Colton A and Budget Thancred, Brielle.
Nice. Okay. I mean, that would make a little bit more sense, I guess. But what was I thinking? When we deal with Hydaelyn and Zodiark, and we're finishing that whole thing up with, I guess, whatever threat. Maybe we're not completely finishing those up. I don't know, but if we do, we're like, okay, we don't have to worry about Hydaelyn and Zodiark, that arc anymore at all. It's just done.
Mm.
Doesn't everything else seem underwhelming? That we're dealing with like the top gods right now, right? So where do you go past the top gods?
That's a good question. I was thinking about this like with Omega, right? It's like we are finding this thing that like basically one shot Bahamut that has like, basically creation magics is basically like, a Deus Ex Machina, like literally a god in the machine. How could we possibly like escalate from there? How could anything, be like compelling or dangerous beyond that? And they always find a way. Mm-hmm. Again, like, just speaking of speaking of Omega, like we've got whoever made Omega, that civilization, they could be out there somewhere and they could just come like rumbling in one day, and Hydaelyn and Zodiark could seem like a very, very small threat. Like, oh, great, you personified your planet and gave it a willpower. Well, hey, here's like the Borg, like they could easily escalate it, and they could easily find, other villains that aren't necessarily like threatening to destroy the world, but are threatening like far more kind of like personal and intimate and like immediate, like relatable problems. I don't know, like I trust the writers and I trust that they're gonna find something.
Okay. Moose?
I've got 11 on my mind when I think about this question. If we wanted to, there's a lot that we could use as bigger, badder threats. If you want to escalate, we got the possibility of the Allagons still being out there. We've got Omega's planet. We've got Midgardsmir's planet, if anything's left of it. We've got the Eldritch horrors from the world if we need it. We've got gods we've never heard of. We've got Lovecraftian nonsense if we want it. But do we want it? Like, what if this is the climax of the story? And yeah, we never face anything this big or huge again. But like Ethys said, what if it's more personal? What if it's more fun? What if we learn more about the world? Like, what if this is just the peak and we move towards a resolution that doesn't need to be bigger or badder? I don't want a game that ends with ever-increasing villains until we finally jump the shark and the Warrior of Light becomes a god. And I hope my boy can retire someday, So if this is the peak, this is the peak. I might be happy with that because like we went to Ot Urgan and it wasn't necessarily as big as the Zelart and Promathia and all that kind of stuff, but it was still great. Like we don't need to top everything. So I'm ambivalent.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be Dragon Ball.
Doesn't have to be Dragon Ball where you go even higher and greater every single time.
No.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be. It might be, but it doesn't have to be.
I mean, it does feel, I do feel like why we believe that and why we think that's great. I think there are a lot of people who always think, oh, yeah, it will start to seem underwhelming if it's not the bigger, greater thing. And they are pandering towards the majority of the player base, right? You got to do that to keep subs.
Yeah, they are, but, at the end of the day, I think when Moose was talking about like how nice it'll be to be able to go and explore other things without having to worry about the hanging issue of like, what about Garlemald? What about the Ursians? They have an opportunity to tell like different kinds of stories now. And maybe it'll take an expansion, maybe it'll take a couple of expansions of them sort of even like, fumbling around till they really like grab onto something that's like really kind of compelling and exciting. But Yoshida and his team have demonstrated time and time again they're not afraid to like take risks with stuff like that, and that they're very good at balancing fan service and pandering with like what is going to actually like pay off in the long term. And I'm just really excited to see the potential for completely different kinds of stories told through Final Fantasy 14. So bring it on.
Okay. By the way, chat, everybody out there, you guys have been having tons of wonderful comments out there. Of course, I haven't seen all of it myself, but I do every once in a while see Moose like responding and just like making sure some points are understood there. But if you have any questions or anything that you would like to ask us here on the show, go ahead and ask them. You can click on that link and submit it that way, and that way we can see it. We do have a handful of questions. It seems like one of our moderators, Tag, has a whole bunch of them. I'll give you a couple of them here, Tag. There's like 10 questions from him, but we'll go through a couple of them. So we talked about a lot of different types of just theory crafting, the alliance raid and other things that we might be able to see. We talked about things that are possible bits of side content. But is there any like side content that you want to see in 6.0 that you would think that would be at least fun to see, if not like mandatory in the game that we haven't spoken about yet? Is there any like just little, doesn't need to be a full story. We don't need to dive into it, but it could be just a nice little side bit of content.
Yeah, more void quests eventually.
Okay.
I mean, that's probably not going to be until like 8.0, knowing, how they do in a Cal High. But eventually going back to that would be really cool. And again, knowing that the 8-man, the 24-man, like none of that's going to be dealing with Novaran with the first. And it seems like we're not really going to have much of an opportunity to go back there. I would like the idea of having the exploration content. So like the Eureka or the Bozja, having that based in the first, and maybe having Eden as like a prerequisite for it, and us starting to like go out and explore the parts of the empty that are like slowly coming back to life. Mm-hmm. I'd love to explore that. Beyond that, new deep dungeon. Nice.
New deep dungeon is the point. Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
Moose.
What about you, Moose?
I've just got a very large pile of list of plot hooks that they didn't address and that I'm hoping aren't handled too clumsily. That they're not just like all shoved into a new Eureka somewhere and never talked about again. So I've got Morris and Amber Scale Rock from 1.0. I want to see more info about the clans. If we're not doing more races, I'd love to see third clans. I think there's a lot we haven't explored about our own city's history. The Green Rot, the Elementals. We never went back for Korgwavai, Shavanchet, and whatever happened to Dunstan. There's a lot of stories I want to see that are just, they haven't been addressed yet, and I'd love to do it in a way that's not clumsy, where when they're coming up with ideas of what to do next, someone remembers that exists and wants to make something cool out of it, like Bozja.
Yeah, I gotcha. All right, all right. I do want to ask: would you be upset if we never did anything on the first again and we're just done with it and we're just like it's behind us? We're never
I'd
just
be
gonna.
surprised.
You'd be surprised. Okay.
I would be very surprised, since we like shipped into Calhai over there and started seeding like a new side plot line there. And that there's like an implication that the Eden story is gonna like continue on to something else. Would I be sad? Yeah, I'd be sad. I'm invested in Novrat and in its history. I'd love to learn more about it. I just don't want it to continue to be like at the, and I guess like being prioritized over all this stuff that I want to know about Eorzea. Like Moose is saying, we, even okay. You mentioned Bodja. One thing that really frustrated me about Bodja is we're getting like these lore dumps of these characters that we have never seen before, that we see in One Fate, that are dead now. Spoiler, as of the Lubrum Reginae, and we learn more about them than we learned about most of the Scions. There's so much left to like dig up in Eorzea. So yeah, I would be disappointed if we don't go back to Novrat. I want to learn more. I want to learn more about that at the expense of,
Yeah.
Eorzean mysteries.
Okay.
I'd be like at the surprise just because they put all of those resources into building it. And I feel like when you're a developer, you think, how can I wisely use my resources to free up the ability to make more new stuff? So I think sometimes when it comes down to choosing what resources you have that you want to use to free up resources elsewhere, the first has a lot of great options. Would I be sad? I don't know. I don't have anything against it. The first being a happily ever after we completed our mission there thing. I don't think. I'd be sad to not have the opportunity to spend more time in Crystarium because I feel like that's my favorite city. But I'd be down to see more of it. I think Ethys has a great point about the Void quests going in that direction and Post Eden going in something in that direction. I think there's something that can be branched there because I don't know if Square Enix is ever going to fully let go of having just a realm full of demons that they can tap for anything at every time. So I don't think we're going to like solve the 13th, but I think we could explore the idea of, is that possible? Could it happen? What would it look like? What would happen if we tried? I think there's a lot of ways to explore that. And because they introduced the idea that the first is somewhat bound to the 13th in a cosmos likes balance kind of way, that we could explore one through the other without putting too much of the dev's ability to bring new stuff into the game in jeopardy.
Okay.
But sad, I don't think sad.
Sad's
No,
just
I
not
think
the
I'd be
right
okay
word.
with it. I'd be okay. It's just not the right word, but I think I'd be okay with it. But I don't think they'd do it.
Okay. We do have a good handful of questions that have come in. I'm going to go ahead and ask this one because I think that we haven't talked about it really too much, but I know it's something that Ethys loves to talk about here. Do you think Fandaniel might actually be working for or tempered by Lavos? And the Keening presence under Silver Tier? Yeah, no.
Oh man, we're really begging the question there, aren't we? Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to like clarify on this, the final days in the ancient world were caused by a keening, a sound, a sort of screaming sound that was coming up from the center of the earth, and people losing control of their creation magic, spontaneously summoning simulacrums of their own nightmares, etc., etc. And it kind of sounds like Lavos from Chrono Trigger, and we just kind of like picked it up and sort of run with it. The idea that there's this awful like parasitic thing that's at the center of the planet that Zodiac had to be summoned to deal with. They got woken up by presumably the Amortines or someone or something in the ancient world, and that's maybe that's the presence under Silver Tier, and that maybe that's going to be woken up at some point in the near future. Look, I think this is coming back to Daniel's motivations. And if he was like really just nihilistic and wanted to die and wanted everything to die, I'd be like, yeah, maybe it's got some connection with this thing. But the pacing of it is just it's not. It just doesn't really fit.
Okay.
I don't think so.
All right. I'm going to ask this next one, the Moose here. Do you think that one of the Scions is going to be the scythe wielding new job at some point? And they're going to be the reason why we discovered this new melee?
I don't think it's going to be one of the Scions. Someone planted this idea in my head as we were watching the trailer, and it won't go away. Zenos is like, well, I'm going to need a new weapon. And he throws his sword on the ground and he steps on it on the way out the door. And in the trailer, if you look next to him, there's a handle that's just like sticking up next to the chair. And I can't unsee it. I can't unimagine Zenos as this new like Reaper-esque scythe-wielding character that is emblematic of death in his pursuit for Zodiark and teaming up with Fandaniel and going against the Warrior of Light as a paladin. So a Scion, no, I think it might actually be Zenos. And now I can't get it out of my head. It's stuck there. I can't think about anything else because it all sounds so cool.
No, it does. It does. I would be okay with the spinning cartridge holder of scythes too, if you want to do that and have like a fan.
Scythe going. Golf bag.
Yeah, like a golf bag. That would be great. All right, let's see. I'm gonna be honest. A lot of these questions, like I'm reading it, I'm like, I don't understand it because I just don't understand the lore enough. And so I feel like I don't know if I'm asking a dumb question or a good question. So let me.
That's part of the fun. I guess ask it anyway.
All right. When we end up at the Sharlayan, do you think that we'll see the parallels with Emerald, and how would we?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I think to a degree they're setting up like kind of a a la Garlemald parallel there, as far as like people who see themselves as the stewards of the world and hoarding all the knowledge. So yeah, I think that's possible. I think we could see some parallels there.
Okay. All right. Another question here is, what do you think the meaning or intention was with showing Fandaniel's memory crystal damaged? I don't remember this, so
when we picked them all up, his came through less clear than the others.
Yeah.
Okay.
It did, and I wonder if this wasn't just like dramatic foreshadowing, and that it wasn't even like a sort of specific like mechanical thing. Some people are speculating that like, okay, maybe his crystal was damaged and maybe that's why Fandaniel is like either not programmed properly, not tempered properly. It might be some explanation why he's a little bit unhinged, it seems. Or maybe he was always like that. I haven't thought into it too much, but I think it's certainly something to keep in mind.
Okay, so I tend to approach things with the way that they're approached to me. So when someone points out that crystal sounds a little different and I go back and I look at it, I do think about why, but I don't make the assumption. The crystal that comes through like that unclearly is the first one we pick up. So is it just that we're not used to reading them yet and we get a little better at it as we go along? Because not only is that one, it has like a lot of dots indicating that there's words missing in their spaces. But if you go a little bit further down the line, one of them says the words they hold rings clearer than before when you focus on the crystal. So is it just that you're getting better at it as you're going along? And Ethys says it's dramatic tension building up. We can't rule that in or out. So we can't say whether the crystal was damaged or we just sucked at reading it yet. But it could be a foreshadow, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think some people are sort of like assuming that it was damaged, and I would just say like don't jump to conclusions just yet. Just keep it in mind.
Okay. All All right, let's see. If the Lunar Cry makes an appearance in either the main story quest, Pandemonium, or 24-man, what form do you think it will take, if at all? What is the Lunar Cry?
We really got you to play 8 again, man.
Okay. I promise
It's time. I know it's between like the famous gravity wells of 7 was my first, it's the best ever, and 9 being underappreciated to a criminal level, and that's all anybody ever talks about. But 8 is still okay.
I'll play the HD version soon.
All right.
Great.
I'll make a point. I'll make a point to play every Final Fantasy again, so I can be like, I know everything about my lore, at least the base most experience. Because it's been so long. I don't think that I don't even know if I got halfway through 8 when I played it the first time. Because just playing games when you're younger and just some things you finish and don't finish, and I think that was one of the ones I didn't finish. So, but anyway,
I was gonna look it up like on the fandom wiki so that I could read you like their description of what it was. And I'm looking at the picture of it, and it does look kind of like an eye on the moon. And now I'm sitting here thinking, like, maybe I should read this a little closer.
Okay.
People are speculating that the Lunar Cry might be like another way to think of the keening, basically. And that this, whatever the towers are doing, whatever this recreation of the final days, whatever... I guess like equivalent of the keening that Fandaniel is going to be doing, that might just be like referred to as the Lunar Cry and just kind of fit in the whole like iconography, right? Of, Lunar Bahamut and going to the moon and the towers and yeah. I just think if they do kind of throw it in, it'll be just kind of like a fan servicey sort of title for stuff that's already happening.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of like themes in it that are useful as a MacGuffin, like as explanations. Because there was a civilization that was wiped out by it, and we have a civilization that's been wiped out that's associated with the moon. We have like monsters that are able to be summoned in a specific way at a certain time and that are kind of like the havoc from the moon. And like, yeah, I think there's a lot of themes you could invoke there. It's just, will they? And to what degree will it be the same story? But now that I'm like looking at the page and I see that it looks like an eye, I'm like, oh, maybe I should think about this a little deeper.
Okay.
Crap.
All right, so this one's for you, Ethys.
Okay.
It says, I briefly talked to Moose about this, but I'd like to hear Ethys' thoughts on the theory that Fandaniel was the one to put Zenos in that Elzin resistance member. Due to all the clues that exist, like Zenos had been truly ready to die in 4.0, Elidibus being in shock in that Zenos followed the soul, swapping ritual steps, and Fandaniel showing up the moment Elidibus is gone. So do you think that, I guess the question was, do you think that Fandaniel put Zenos in there and Zenos was going to die without Fandaniel's intervention?
I think it's possible. I don't think we really have like strong evidence to say one way or the other, but like narratively speaking, that would certainly be compelling. Elidibus was like, how the heck did Zenos manage to do it? Like, I didn't teach him to do that. Emma, did you teach him to do that? Well, I don't know. Everyone's confused. No one knows how that happened. And with, Fandaniel showing up when he did, as Moose pointed out, this like incredibly sort of serendipitous moment, right? Yeah, it wouldn't be terribly surprising if it turns out that he'd been kind of like planning things a little bit further back.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't really have like any more sort of evidence to add to that, but I think that would be, narratively interesting.
Okay. And Moose, I assume that that's the same kind of thought, that part of the discussion that you had with him.
Yeah. the thing for me is that I have to sweep some of my preconceptions off the table because they rewrite stuff all the time on the back end. Like it's consistent in the end, and you can see that like it all lines up. But you can also at the same time tell that it wasn't planned when it happened. Like the return of the Warriors of Darkness in 5.0. Like you can tell they thought they were done with them in 3.4, but the new story still makes sense, right? So the preconception that I had about Zenos was that he survived by accident. That this was just a sheer quirk of the universe, that he fully intended to die, and then the echo kicked in and he accidentally found himself alive again and was like, well, I guess this means it's time for round 2. But could it be retconned, or could it have been the intention all along that someone did this for a purpose? Possibly. But like my preconception was that it was an accident, and that's why it was so poetic.
Okay.
Well, it's not just a preconception, it's the fact that like we know because we've been told that they write, approximately 2 years ahead. And, they leave certain things hanging for an opportunity to sort of like go back and grab those threads and pull them forward. But like, I think we can say with confidence that, when Zenos came back, they weren't thinking of how Fan Daniel would be connected to it at that point.
Okay. All right. So I think that's good for questions for now, guys. Thanks for those questions.
Thank you.
Yeah. I do want to ask one more question. Just kind of the wrap up, talking about the moon, talking about everything. What wasn't there that you wish was there within the whole showcase and everything that we've learned recently? What little bit of information were you like hoping that there might have been there, but just never turned up?
Blitzball!
Was it Blitzball?
Blitzball!
No? Yeah? Okay.
No,
that's
like,
fair. It's fair. I mean, you could be just only wanting to play Final Fantasy XIV for when Blitzball is introduced and it's your first time to be able to play it since 10.
I deliberately held back my my reservations or questions until I see the long trailer. If I see the long trailer and there's stuff I don't see, I'll let you know. But I'm holding myself open for that possibility.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, all I can do is echo that. I mean, what I wish was there but wasn't. Well, what I wish was there was the rest of the trailer. What I wished was there was all of the information that we would have had from all of the fan fests that we missed and from the media tour that we're not going to get to go on. Like, that's what I wished for. So really, this is a question to ask after May, I think. And until then, we just got to hold our breath.
That's fair. And it is
there going to be a second show where we come back to discuss 6.0 through the long trailer format and talk about like what a waste all of this thought was?
Yes, there will be.
We're going to have to retcon this show.
Yeah. There will be.
Like a self-critique.
Mm-hmm. I kind of want to go back and get all the lore shows together that we've done and just watch them and see like, oh, look how wrong they were here and here and here, and just make one big compilation of that.
I do that all the time. That's one of the things that keeps me in the state of mind of like, a good assumption doesn't mean it's a true assumption. You have to wait until there's like good citable evidence that it's confirmed. Like, there are things that were sensible that turned out not to be true, and there are things that turned out to be true that were crazy. Like, there's just no confirmed relationship between good premises and good conclusions. So when I go back and I look at my first question and I'm like, yo, why did Bahamut explode into a like cloud of primals in 1.0? Like, I can see that I didn't know shit about what was going on yet. Like, people are wrong all the time. So yeah, that's fun. Like, let's tear apart old stuff. We were wrong all the time.
So, it would be fun. Maybe one day we'll go back and look at the first show that we got both of you on at the same time, and we'll just record us watching that and reacting to your own thoughts.
Live DVD commentary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Noriko brings up a good point here, is that like out of the 5 pages of stuff I wrote in terms of the New Year's poem, the only line that ended up being really useful was "Moon's haunted."
Can you explain that a little bit more? Because I see it everywhere.
Moon's haunted?
Yeah.
It's a augmentation of a meme. Just look up "Sun's haunted."
Okay. I'll look it up. Because I feel like I keep thinking it and I know it from somewhere, and it's always there. Like one of those memes, you're like, I know this means something to something I've seen before, but I can't connect it right now, and I feel like I'm out of the loop, and it's just a stupid old man. I'm 34 now, guys.
Let me see if I can find it. Okay, Moon's Haunted catchphrase based on... Where did this even start? I know that there's originally a gun involved in an astronaut.
Oh, yeah, that does... You know what? That is starting to connect a little bit.
Oh, no. Okay, so I'm dumb. This was based on Destiny 2.
Is it based on Destiny 2?
Yeah. I skipped Destiny, so I don't know this.
Oh, yeah, because the moon is literally haunted in Destiny 2.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Moon's haunted.
Yeah, here's the original tweet. NASA employee. Oh, hey, you guys are back early. Astronaut. Moon's haunted. NASA employee. What? Astronaut. Loading pistol. Getting back onto the rocket ship. Moon's haunted.
Oh, okay. All right.
So it's Destiny 2. I'm wrong. Sun's Haunted was itself an augmentation of the Destiny 2 meme.
Okay. I feel better, and I hope everyone else that felt out of the loop a little bit feels a little bit better now. That's a great way for us to end the show. I do want to say both of you have been fantastic, and every time I come on the show and I have both of you on here, I feel so relaxed. I feel just comfortable. Like, this whole show could fucking explode. I'm like, I don't care. I'm here with friends. I'm having a good time. And you guys always make me feel that way. So thank you very much for coming on and giving us our lore dump for this recent bit of information. And we will be back, of course, and do this again. I couldn't get Klimps on this time because he's busy with other stuff, but we'll get him on next time. He's always fun because he's like the middleman between me and you guys. So
get him to be the one that makes fun of this show when as he critiques it and tears it apart.
Maybe I could get him to do it. But also thank you, chat. Thank you everybody who came to watch. It's been great. Before we go, of course, I want you guys all to do your own shout outs and anything that you'd like to mention to anyone, last words and stuff. And so we'll start with Ethys since you're on the left hand side. Ethys, could you go first here?
Oh, geez. I mean, you guys know me. You know what I do. You know how I do it. But if you don't, then it's on YouTube and Twitch and Twitter. Ethys Asher. Actually, coming down the pipeline in the next 2 weeks, early March, I'm going to be kicking off Dungeons and Dravanians. There's going to be a series of one-shots of Final Fantasy XIV cross Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. And it's going to be great. We're going to have new special guests for every one shot, and we're going to use it as a vehicle to role play and explore key events throughout Final Fantasy XIV's history. So we're going to go back to the time of Alec. We're going to go back to the War of the Magi. We're going to have a lot of fun with it, and that'll be kicking off early March. My first guests are going to be Mr. Happy, Sly, and my friend Leek Wibble. And yeah, you guys will be able to catch it on Twitch live or over on my YouTube channel. But it's something new and different and exciting. And I hope you guys give it a chance because I've been putting a lot of work into it.
And that's something that usually, if you do anything with Dungeons and Dragons, you're putting a lot of work into it. If you're leading anything, but this is a little bit more than that. So I'm excited to see it, and maybe one day I'll be able to convince you to let me to come on one of your games too, and we'll.
I'm planning on having both these jabronis on for one of the sessions, and I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be excellent.
All right, Moose. I know you don't fucking do anything except for be on forums and Discords, and you don't do any streaming, any YouTube videos, anything that people.
He's right.
Kind of Twitter's tough. People can't really follow you anywhere. But go ahead. Just what can you give people for that part of
what I can... Well, okay. Mean. The first thing I would say was it ain't wrong. No lies detected. Okay, so I would actually piggyback off of what you were saying. Is that since it was 6 nerds crashing the localization forum trying to get Koji to tell us random shit about the game by reporting bugs, I've been using this one word, campfire mindset. The idea that all I want is just for people to be able to sit down and have a relaxed, cordial, nice conversation about what we think's going on, and that we want to archive it right and get it down right. So when this game goes dark, we can leave behind like all the fun and good understanding that we've had of it in the end. That's all I've ever wanted, and everything else has been a complete accident. So everywhere that I go that turns out to be like a really good campfire mindset, I'm so grateful to be there. Like, this show feels like just a couple of people sitting around a campfire having a good time shooting the shit. Like, that's what I dreamt of when I got involved in lore. So I have that in the forums. You can find me in the forums. I have that at Gamer Escape. You can find me at Gamer Escape. I'm on Anonymoose XIV on Twitter. Like, but that's all I care about, is let's have fun talking about the lore of this game and try to archive it the best we can, and wherever that happens, I'm happy to be there.
Okay. You know what? I can do at least that. Let me find your Twitter, and I'm just going to post your Twitter in here so people will follow.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. So follow that Twitter for Moose Takes, and they're always great. Any shout outs? By the way, you know what? Ethys, did you do any shout outs to anybody?
My girlfriend's asleep, so I don't need to shut her up.
No, that's fine.
No, she's been really great. Actually, she's been helping on the production side with Dungeons and Dragonians, and like it probably wouldn't be happening for like another 6 months without her. So she's amazing.
Okay.
And shout out to like everyone, like obviously to Frosty for having me on the show, and for like everyone else that's like been collaborating with me. I've been doing a lot more collaboration this year and kind of coming out of my shell a little bit more, and that's been phenomenal. So like everyone in the community that's been like hanging out with me and doing stuff, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to have you around, man. And Moose, any shout outs for you?
I gotta follow Ethys' lead on this one. Like, shout out to the girlfriend, even though she'll never see this. Like, shout out to everybody in the community who stands for kind of that same shared mindset of finding a way to be kind to each other and have fun together and talk about the story of the game, to make this a story-driven game. So everyone who comes to the forums and finds a way to do that, everyone who comes to Gamer Escape and finds a way to do that, like, thank you to you.
This is really great, by the way.
I'm in trouble.
Yeah. Tal comes in for 5 minutes at the end here.
Jeez.
Girlfriend here. Well, if it makes you feel any better, my wife probably is not seeing this at all either, but she is an instrumental part of everything that I do, just by being here for me. So she keeps me stable and alive. And so thank you very much to Kerr for all that. Her birthday was yesterday, so happy birthday to her. Perfect chipmunk timing. Perfect chipmunk. It's so good. It's so good.
Oh man.
But thank you.
Great show.
Yeah. I think we know what you said, so we appreciate that, Moose. It was very nice of things that you said. I would like to also thank Andre Kane, who does the intro and the closing for the music here. Everyone on Patreon, everyone that subs, everyone that just comes and listens and is part of the conversation and chat. It means the world to me. I've been doing this for so many years, and without people here, they kind of hang out with us, it wouldn't be nearly the same. And of course, I have to do it. The guests are what makes this show. So Ethys and Moose, you guys are fantastic, and I couldn't do this MogTalk without you. So thank you so much.
This one you couldn't. Probably.
No, this one, no, for sure. There's
probably
no way.
not this one.
Yeah. But that being said, I do have a short little video. There's it's thanking Patreon as part of the tier there, Patreon members, and then there's a little extra bit at the end that you guys might want to watch, and then we're gonna raid. We're gonna raid someone right after this. We're gonna discuss this after we get off air, like after the credits and everything's rolling. So stick around for that as well, just to support the next stream. You guys all have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Remember, be good, keep cool, stay frosty. Bye. Wave and say bye. You guys have to do it. I can't change it until you both say bye.
Stay frosty.
Everyone, thanks for watching the show. This is, of course, the segment where I personally thank the Patreon supporters of the show. There are 4 people who are at a very high tier, which is Dude is Antonio, a mod in the chat that we have that has been around forever, helped me with plenty of things in my MogTalk life. And then we have Tagalong, who's been a mod who's been helping out with questions and everything else, and with other events that we've had recently. And then there is Nimic from Awk Morning, a website you guys should check out if you want to look into raiding. And then we have Super Miyu, who works on the Teamcraft website. If you're at all a crafter, it's probably worth looking at. So, that being said, I don't have anything too special. Well, sort of. I've been working on a video, and I'm pretty sure I'm just going to abandon it and throw it away. But I made a teaser for it, so you'll get a glimpse of something that may never exist. And, yeah, there you go. Enjoy it, guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and bye. Oh, stay frosty.